the Canadiens. The Sabres also got home ice advantage back, as did the Boston Bruins from the Hartford Whalers. The Whalers twice blew 3-goal leads. The second time when Dave Poulin scored with less than 2 minutes to go, the Bruins won 6-5 in Hartford to tie the series at 2. The Rangers have the Islanders on the run now, leading 3-1. This breakaway goal by John Ogrodnik was merely insurance in a 6-1 Ranger victory. The other Patrick Division series is even after Dino Ciccarelli scored his 7th goal of the playoffs, ensuring a 3-1 Washington victory over New Jersey. Tonight, we're back in the Campbell Conference. The Jets and Oilers are back at Northlands Coliseum.
Molson Hockey Night in Canada on CBC.
Here's a chance for Riche. In front, score! Going in there, he's centered it. Olczyk scores! Olczyk! Messier with a great speed! Messier scores! Cleveland got through there! He went in! Oh, score! Coming in, side of the net, center! Murray! Power play goal, just like that!
All the games in this Smythe Division semifinal series have been close enough to create big goals. That was the case in Game 1 when Brent Ashton scored the winner to give the Jets the series lead. They had to go to overtime to decide Game 2, and the big goal came from Mark Lamb to tie the series for the Oilers. In Winnipeg, there was a more likely goal-scoring hero in Game 3. Dale Howardchuk beat Bill Ranford on a wrist shot to put the Jets back in front. And then in Game 4, they played over 4 periods before Dave Ellett's goal in double overtime became the biggest of this series. Tonight, it's Game 5 of the Smythe Division semifinal on Molson Hockey Night in Canada on CBC.
Brought to you by Molson Canadian, what beer's all about. By Ford of Canada, where quality is more than a commitment, quality is job one. By Esso, going that extra mile. And by Pepsi, it's got what it takes.
Northlands Coliseum has been the site of many great playoff triumphs by the Edmonton Oilers. Tonight, they're hoping for one that will simply keep them alive in the 1990 Stanley Cup playoffs. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Northlands Coliseum and to Molson Hockey Night in Canada on CBC. The 3-1 status of this series in the Jets' favor likely does not do justice to how close it's been, but that's a little consolation to the Edmonton Oilers, who in a few moments will take to the ice here at Northlands Coliseum to play what could be the final game of their season and will be if they do not win it. That should be motivation enough for Edmonton tonight. Certainly everybody associated with this series expected it to be close but also long, and very few foresaw the Jets being in a position to be able to drum the Oilers out of the first round of the playoffs in 5 games. They are, though, and that brings us to Game 5. For more, let's join Don Whitman and John Garrett.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, everybody. Yes, the Edmonton Oilers find themselves in a totally unfamiliar position, trailing 3-1. And John Garrett, history is certainly against them. Only 6 times have teams rebounded from a 3-1 deficit. So what are the keys tonight for the Oilers to stave off elimination?
Well, the big guns have to get firing. Mark Messier, and in particular Glenn Anderson. He was a jet killer all year long. He had 4 game winners. He has yet to get a point in this series. In Game 5, Glenn Anderson has to produce.
The Oilers tonight are relieved to have Kevin Lowe back in the lineup.
They had to rely on Charlie Huddy and Randy Gregg to play at least 40 minutes in Game 4. With Kevin Lowe back in the lineup, they'll have 2 healthy sets of defensemen. Take the pressure off those older players.
If there's pressure on anyone tonight, I would suggest it might be goaltender Bill Ranford.
In Game 1, he was bad. But after that, he's bounced back, and he's played pretty well. He kept the Oilers in the game in Game 4. He's going to have another superb performance here in Game 5.
The Oilers would also like to see their power play revert back to the form of Game 1.
Well, especially in key situations. In the third period of Game 4, they had 2 chances with the score tied 3-3 and didn't even get a good scoring chance. So the Oiler power play has to come to the front, especially early in the game.
Will the series end tonight, or will it go back to Winnipeg for a 6th game on Saturday? We'll find out shortly. Our Stanley Cup playoff coverage continues in just a moment.
Are in need of a win in St. Louis as they face elimination by the Blues. Blues got the jump 4 minutes into the first period. Harold Sneps let go of the first shot. Leaf goaltender Jeff Reese will surrender the fat rebound that Kelly Chase from Porcupine Plain, Saskatchewan, turned into a goal. 1-0 for the Blues. And only 40 seconds later, the Leafs were reeling. Dan Daou lost it along the boards. Peter Zezel broke 2-on-1 with the most feared shooter in the NHL these days, and Brett Hull will put it over Reese for his 4th goal of the playoffs. A 2-0 St. Louis lead. The Leafs in early trouble, but they got a break when the Blues got sloppy trying to clear the zone on a power play. Gary Lehman took a pass from Ramage, who collected his 2nd of the playoffs. A power play goal for Lehman in the final minute of the first period. Second period, the Blues lead 2-1. Chicago and Minnesota tied at 2 in their series, playing Game 5 at Chicago Stadium. The Hawks had a 2-man advantage when they scored the first of the game at 10:17 of the first period. Jeremy Roenick fed Steve Thomas, got it back, and put it in himself for his 2nd of the playoffs. John Casey of the North Stars got a shutout on Tuesday, but gave up his 2nd in this game when Denny Savard confused the Minnesota defense and drilled it just under the crossbar to give the Hawks a 2-0 lead. Now playing the second period. And in Calgary, it is hot. It was less than a year ago the Flames won the Stanley Cup, but with the Kings leading the series 3-1, there have been suggestions the Flames make a coaching change now, as in immediately before the playoffs end. This was the headline in today's Calgary Herald. We'll be updating you on what happens in Calgary tonight. The Flames, of course, hoping to extend their series there, as are the Oilers here against the Jets. The question in Calgary, of course, is will the Flames still be reeling over the massacre of which they were victims on Tuesday night when they lost 12-4? Around Edmonton, Oiler fans have been consoling themselves these days with the fact that even though their team is on the verge of elimination, the Flames are in the same position, the result of a loss far worse than any the Oilers have suffered in this series against the Jets. As Don mentioned earlier, only 6 teams in Stanley Cup playoff history have been able to recover from 3-1 series deficits to come back to claim the series, and so if the Oilers are going to become number 7, they're going to have to start tonight with a victory. Now we send you ringside for the national anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please remain standing and join in as Mr. Paul Lorio sings and Corbin Holt Peterson plays our national anthem.
Well, if ever a team needed some encouragement, it has been provided. A standing ovation from the crowd at Northlands Coliseum. Denny Morrell, who was the backup on Tuesday night in Winnipeg, is the referee, with Ron Finn and Ron Asseltine working the line. Not surprisingly, the Winnipeg Jets have opted to go with Stefan Beauregard in goal. He came on at 7:04 of the second period on Tuesday night and played a strong game, yielding just 1 goal after replacing the injured Bob Essendon. At the other end, it is Bill Ranford. He has been the Oiler goaltender since the start of this series.
Bob Murdoch has had the pleasure of having both his goaltenders playing well. The Edmonton Oilers have gone all the way with Bill Ranford, and Ranford has really played well in the last 3 games. In Game 4, he was especially sharp in the second and third period.
The Edmonton Oilers have Kevin Lowe back in the lineup tonight. The Winnipeg Jets have added defenseman Brad Berry to the roster. He played 38 games with Moncton this season in the American Hockey League. And a penalty is coming up very early in the hockey game as Doug Evans was upended in the Edmonton zone, and both he and Glenn Anderson are heading off to the penalty box.
And referee Dennis Morrell taking charge early in this game. The series hasn't been particularly chippy, but it has been rough, and there's been a number of good, solid hits. Here, Anderson and Evans both getting penalties.
Well, there's no shortage of razor blades in the Edmonton Oilers dressing room, nor is there a shortage in the Winnipeg Jet dressing room. But as is a custom at playoff time, players like to grow beards.
Some of the players are having trouble. The players are getting so young now, some of them just can't grow beards.
With a Stanley Cup update, here's Scott O.
Down in St. Louis, the second period has begun with a Blues power play goal. Adam Oates sent it rink wide to Peter Zezel, who one time did pass Jeff Reese, and 5 minutes into the second period, Blues led 3-1.
Wheeling out of his own zone is Ruotsalainen. Long shot. Beauregard kicks back to the corner. Aston along the boards trying to get it out. Steve Smith keeps it in. Klima gains control. He's checked by Mo Mantha. Knocked ahead to Fenton. Fenton tried to dump it down ice for McDermott, and McDermott was hit hard by Steve Smith. Here comes Peter Klima trying to go around Olofsson. He managed to get a weak shot away just as he was checked by Mo Mantha, and Beauregard makes the save.
Klima showing his speed around Olofsson, but Dave Ellett came across and took Klima. Ellett and Olofsson have had their troubles defensively. They've been a big threat with the puck. And there's a shot of Paul McDermott. A heavy hit by Steve Smith on Paul McDermott.
If there is a number one man on the Edmonton Oilers hit list, it would be Paul McDermott. And Steve Smith gained some revenge for a tremendous hit that McDermott put on Smith in Game 4 in Winnipeg.
Smith was injured on that hit in Game 4 there. Smith was lucky he got his shoulder into McDermott before the high stick came through. McDermott was flat before Smith got the stick up.
The Oilers were a loose group at the morning skate. One would never suspect that they were trailing 3-1 from their reaction.
They played so well, and yet they're down 3-1. I think that's the reason they feel fairly confident, unlike their neighbors to the south.
Gary Curry shoots wide. McElwain bangs it off the boards. It will go all the way down the ice, and an icing call is upcoming against the Winnipeg Jets. We've played 1 minute of this opening period in Game 5 here at Northlands Coliseum. Charlie Huddy logged a tremendous amount of ice time in Game 4. He told me this morning that he has probably never logged more ice time than he did on Tuesday.
A number of scratches for both teams with extra players around. Randy Carlisle still nursing that sore knee. Doug Smale and Phil Sykes both out with injuries. Peter Taglianetti has sore ribs, and for the Oilers, the same situation with some of their players. Grant Fuhr still on that sore shoulder.
And with Kevin Lowe's return to the lineup, Jeff Smith goes to the bench. Beauregard makes the save on the shot from the point. Another face-off in the Winnipeg zone. This youngster is confident of his ability to play goal in the National Hockey League.
He has really impressed me with his cool. He came into that game the other night in a 3-2 game. Looked confident right from the start. He let in a goal that was a bad goal against Esa Tikkanen, and then shut the door after that.
Bob Murdoch has indicated that with Beauregard in the net tonight, if there is a 6th game, it would be Bob Essenza returning to the goal on Saturday in Winnipeg. Kevin Lowe with his first shift of the hockey game. He was saying this morning that while he could skate okay, he wouldn't know how he would hold up until he had his first contact. He was out with back spasms. Jelena, who only had 2 shifts in Game 4, is out there now with Graves and Murphy. Graves shoots it, kick to the corner, centering attempt by Lowe is knocked down. Jelena back to the net for Murphy. Back to Jelena. Jelena trying to move out front. He's checked by Olofsson. Aston unable to get out against Craig Muni. The Oilers applying early pressure. Here's Graves. Unable to get a shot away the first time. Then finally managed to fire one wide of the net. Brent Ashton picks it up for Winnipeg, takes the hit from Craig Muni, almost went into the Winnipeg bench.
This is what the Oilers wanted to do, set the pace early. They've had constant pressure on the Winnipeg Jets.
They've already had 4 shots on Winnipeg. Thomas Steen is checked by Messier. Messier tried to slide it through. It's grabbed and held by Stefan Beauregard as Gord Donnelly bumps in the corner with Craig Simpson and gives him a shove after the whistle.
Mark Messier is required to shoot the puck a little more by his coach, John Muckler. He sat him down, and Messier only has 6 shots on goal, and they want Messier to shoot more.
With another Stanley Cup update, here's Scott.
Down in St. Louis, the Blues did lead 3-1, but the Leafs got it right back as Gary Lehman picked off an errant Blues pass. He batted it down. Ed Olchuk fed Scott Pearson, who pulled Toronto to within 1. 3-2 St. Louis now in a game the Leafs must win.
And in this game that the Oilers must win, they have applied early pressure. Here comes Messier, pulling away from Steen, runs into a check at the blue line from McElwain. And the puck is cleared by Winnipeg.
One of the things the Jets said, watching Mark Messier is not a one-man job, and there you saw McElwain standing at the blue line, just getting in Messier's way to slow him down.
There have been some good hits by the Oilers early in the game. Buchberger ran into Elnick. Elnick is in across the line with McElwain, but McElwain was offside. Buchberger played a strong forechecking role for the Edmonton Oilers in games 3 and 4 in Winnipeg. We've got a penalty coming up.
Here's Craig Muni taking Brent Ashton, almost putting him right on the bench. Good hit by Muni, but the Edmonton Oilers are taking a penalty here. Steve Smith going off after the whistle, and there was some pushing and shoving after that. Elnick slapped Buchberger, and then Smith, after that, knocked the stick out of Elnick's hand, and it's Smith who is going to get the penalty.
John Muckler was hoping that his team would play a disciplined hockey game tonight at Northlands Coliseum in Game 5. He can't be pleased with that early penalty by Smith.
You see, Muckler is saying that if Kenny Morrell let the first shove by Elnick go, why would he call the one at Smith? But it was Elnick and Buchberger by themselves, and then Smith retaliated, and Smith takes a slashing penalty.
Again, we point out that in the 4 playoff games of the last 3 regular season games, the team that has scored the opening goal has lost the hockey game. McDermott deflects it into the Edmonton zone. Left there for Charlie Huddy. Yari Curry tried to get it back to Huddy. It was broken up by Dave Ellett. As it's brought back in by Curry, it's offside with Esatikinen in deep in Winnipeg territory.
Yari Curry has been the leading scorer for the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs. Had his problems in the last month and a half of the season. Some people attributed that to contract squabbles with the Oilers, but he's really come to play. His line has been the best line for the Oilers.
His 83 playoff goals, number 3 in the all-time list, behind Mike Bossy at 85 and Wayne Gretzky at 87.
Come on, boys, come on, boys, come on, boys, run out.
And although they do speak English on the bench, Esatikinen and Yari Curry converse in Finnish. Freddie Olsson back in his own zone. 1:26 remaining in the penalty to Steve Smith. Olsson loses it. McTavish in the neutral zone, killing some time for the Edmonton Oilers. And the Jets have to go back behind Stefan Beauregard to try and set up. McTavish and Messier are out there killing off this penalty. Pass on the wing for Ellett. Ellett. He's sent flying by Mark Messier, and there's another penalty coming up. This will be a charging or an elbowing call against Messier with 1 minute still remaining in the penalty to Steve Smith. So the Jets will have a 2-man advantage.
Mark Messier takes an elbowing penalty, and the Edmonton Oilers here 2 men short. Here comes Messier on Ellett, and there's the left arm. Gives him a forearm shot to the head. and takes the elbowing penalty. The Oilers killed off a two-man disadvantage in Game 4, but here it's early in the game. They have to ask for penalty killers to come through again.
Craig McTavish almost stole it at the line. Thomas Steen moves in with Dale Hawerchuk. Hawerchuk to Allett, the overtime hero in Game 4. Back to Hawerchuk. Hawerchuk to Thomas Steen. Steen tried to throw it out. Taken away by Kevin Lowe. Battle for the puck in the corner. Olofsson gets there. It's loose back to the net. They can't get it out. At the side of the goal, Bill Ranford pounces on it and holds it for a face-off. 26 seconds remaining in the two-man advantage.
Here's where Kevin Lowe and Craig Muni play so well together. 2 minutes short, and in Game 4, Charlie Huddy and Randy Gregg killed every penalty for the full 2 minutes. They were 2 men short in Game 4 for 1 minute and 44, and Charlie Huddy and Randy Gregg were out for that full two-man disadvantage. Here they get a little breather. They'll be able to come back with Huddy and Gregg in the second half of it.
McTavish goes to the box as Esa Tikkanen comes out with Craig Muni and Kevin Lowe as the Oilers penalty-killing trio. The Jets counter with Steen, Hawerchuk, and Elnick. Olofsson and Ellett back on the blue line. Olofsson moves it across to Ellett. Back to Olofsson. Olofsson to Ellett. So far, they haven't got a shot away. Steen at the side of the net, saved by Ranford. It ricochets back to Ellett. Over to Thomas Steen. He tried to slide it through, broken up by Craig Muni. A centering attempt blocked by Tikkanen. He fires it down the ice. That kills off the penalty to Steve Smith.
And Craig Muni looked very sharp. He blocked that shot and then blocked a pass by Steen as he just tried to work it around in close.
Bo Mantha with a shot high off the glass. Left along the boards. Mantha couldn't get there. Charlie Huddy was in first.
Again, the Oiler penalty killers. The Jets have yet to get this first shot on goal, and they've had a two-man advantage.
Stolen by Curry in the neutral zone. He momentarily lost it, gets it back, looks for Craig McTavish. McTavish checked by Brent Ashton. Back comes Winnipeg, 22 seconds left in the penalty. McDermott to Paul Fenton. His shot deflects off the glass. McTavish along the board gets it out of the zone as Paul McDermott sent it in Charlie Huddy and sent him flying. Brent Ashton takes the pass from McDermott but is offside. Just 7 seconds left in the penalty to Mark Messier. Charlie Huddy really took a hit from Paul McDermott.
And Charlie Huddy's complaining, saying that should have been an interference penalty, as McDermott took Huddy out before Huddy got close to the puck. I tend to agree with Huddy on that play. It was a good solid hit by McDermott, but Huddy wasn't around the puck.
7 seconds left in the penalty with another Stanley Cup update. Here's Scott.
Down in Chicago, the Hawks have extended their lead over Minnesota. Brad Gilbert in front of John Casey took the feed and backhanded in his own rebound. And so in the second period, the Hawks now lead the North Stars 3-0.
Still scoreless in the first period. Centering attempt lays right in the goal mouth as Paul Fenton went driving for the net. And that puck just lay there. Now Messier is back in the ice. The Oilers at full strength. 14:03 remaining in the period. Edmonton doing a fine job of killing off 2 penalties.
Here's a puck going to the corner. Charlie Huddy doesn't get to that puck as Paul McDermott took him out. It was a good clean hit, but I think it was interference as Huddy wasn't even close to getting to the puck, and McDermott took him out of the play.
14:03 remaining in a still scoreless opening period at Northlands Coliseum. Laurie Boschman, who did not dress for the first 3 games for Winnipeg, is out there with Kumpel and Evans. The Jets have 7 defensemen dressed tonight, Brad Berry being the 7th rear guard. He's out there in place of the injured Peter Taglianetti. Doug Evans, off his wrong wing, shoots it in. Ranford has to come sliding out to make the save with Boschman driving for the net. And then Kevin Lowe has something to say to Laurie Boschman.
Laurie Boschman had a strong game in Game 4, sat out the first 3, and took all the key face-offs, killed penalties for the Winnipeg Jets in Game 4. Kevin Lowe took exception to Boschman taking a swipe at that puck. Ranford had it covered up. The team's finally trying to protect the goalies. We've seen the goalies run over at least one in each of the first 4 games.
There has been concern about the number of incidents involving players running into goaltenders. Donnelly with a long shot. It deflects up into the crowd. Donnelly and Martin Jelena are pushing and shoving along the boards after Donnelly let that shot go. Glenn Sather, the president and general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, said that something has to be done about the way teams are running goaltenders. Either go back to the 8-inch pipes or perhaps a new type of support for the goal that has been developed with a rubber pipe that comes up into the net.
I think the forwards just take too many liberties. Here, Ranford has the puck, and you see Boschman go through. He wasn't going to try and avoid Bill Ranford, and that's what Kevin Lowe took exception to and went after him.
13:38 remaining in the period. Jets with 3 shots on goal. The Oilers with 4. Jets had that 2-man advantage, remember, for a minute, but only registered 1 shot during that time. It almost appeared as though they were trying to make the perfect play.
They didn't take any shots whatsoever. It didn't jam the front of the net. Looked for that perfect play, and the Oilers did a good job taking away the middle of the ice, keeping the Jets to the outside. If you don't shoot, you're not going to get any chances.
Craig Muni for Jelena. He deflected into Winnipeg territory. Kumpel back after it, but there's a penalty coming up against the Winnipeg Jets. A tripping call behind the play. So the Edmonton Oilers will have a power play with 13:21 left in the period.
Oilers get their first power play chance. Frederick Olofsson's going off for either tripping or interference on Martin Jelena. And Kevin Lowe is going off for the Oilers along with Laurie Boschman. There you see the interference or trip on Martin Jelena by Olofsson. He was just trying to hold him up to give his winger some time to get back and play the puck. Jelena took advantage of the situation. And there's Boschman and Kevin Lowe. So the Oilers still on the power play.
Lowe and Boschman exchanged words and did some pushing and shoving after the penalty call against Olofsson. I think that's a carryover from an earlier skirmish between the two. A tripping call against Olofsson, unsportsmanlike conduct against Lowe and Boschman. 6:39, the time of those penalties. The first power play of the hockey game for Edmonton.
You talk about leadership and lack of in Calgary. There's talking about that. Here in the Edmonton Oilers, they've got Messier, but they also have Kevin Lowe, and they've missed that part of the leadership quality, I'm sure, in the dressing room.
And there have been some who have suggested that perhaps Mark Messier has been attempting to do too much by himself for the Edmonton Oilers.
And there's been some people note that he has stayed on the ice a lot longer in regular shifts than he did during the regular season, and that's hurt his game.
Anderson took a shot that deflected to the corner. Simpson tried to leave it there. It comes to the point. Smith gets it to Messier. Messier is tripped. No whistle, and the fans react. Finally, Ellis spots an opening and fires at the length of the ice.
And Mo Mantha intercepted that pass by Glenn Anderson. A good scoring chance for the Oilers. And again, Mo Mantha doing the job for the Winnipeg Jets here tonight.
Thomas Dean broke up the play in the neutral zone, but the Oilers get it back. And there's a penalty call coming up against the Winnipeg Jets. Thomas Dean is going off, I think. A high sticking call against Dean, so the Edmonton Oilers for 117 will have a 2-man advantage. And there's been a steady parade to the penalty box in the first 7 minutes of this hockey game.
Well, you're talking about the most hated guy on the Winnipeg Jets, Paul McDermott. If the Winnipeg Jets were to take a vote, I'm sure it would be Craig Simpson, and that's who's seen high stick. Was Craig Simpson. He tried to kick his feet out first, and then he whacked him on the helmet with a stick. And the Oilers will have a 2-man advantage.
And that will be for 117. So a great opportunity for the Edmonton Oilers to be the first on the board in Game 5.
Thomas Dean had an exceptional game in Game 4. I was surprised he wasn't picked one of the game stars. Had 3 assists and won a number of key faceoffs for the Jets.
Gary Curry to Messier. Messier moving in. There's the shot. Saved. The rebound covered up by Stefan Beauregard. Glenn Anderson was there. So was Craig Simpson. You know, you talked about Glenn Anderson at the start of our telecast. 65 playoff goals coming into this series. Not a single goal in this 1989-90 playoff round.
And you see, not a single goal, not a single point. And his line has been held in check by the good work of the Brent Ashton line for the Winnipeg Jets.
Tikkanen. Cross ice to Curry. He had to pick it up off the boards. He couldn't one-time it as he wanted to do, and Sean Cronin shoots it down the ice.
That was a pretty poor choice of play for Esa Tikkanen. A tough pass, and Jari Kurri couldn't handle it.
Messier to Simpson. Simpson, a backhander. Messier tried to jam it as he went racing for the net. Knocked away by Beauregard. Tikkanen to Curry. Back to Tikkanen. Tikkanen almost fanned on it. Lets the shot go, scores!
The Oilers power play we were talking about, it had come through early in the game. And here Tikkanen fans on the original shot and then lets it go. It's tipped in front of Beauregard, right there by the Winnipeg Jet defenseman, Teppo Newman. And watch Teppo Newman and stick. Tikkanen lets it go, and it hits Newman and stick, goes down and bounces up over Stefan Beauregard. No chance for Beauregard.
The second of the playoffs for Esa Tikkanen from Curry and Simpson. 8:08 the time of the goal. And the Oilers will still be on the power play. That came with a two-man advantage. Still 1:10 left in the penalty to Thomas Dean. Craig Simpson ahead to Anderson. Beauregard stops it back to the net. Mantha hammers it around the boards and down the ice. Mo Mantha has had a standout series for Winnipeg.
And you notice that Mo Mantha wasn't on the ice when that one was scored. He had to go off for a rest, and he's right back out there again.
The centering attempt bounces high. Picked up in the corner. Elliott can't get it out. Lamb back to Ruotsalainen, and there's his shot. Saved by Beauregard. Steve Smith. Cross ice to Ruotsalainen, back to Smith. Ruotsalainen to Lamb. Back to Ruotsalainen. There's a shot. Knocked down in front, and McElwain bangs it off the boards and out with 14 seconds left in the penalty.
And a good job by the Winnipeg Jet penalty killers, keeping the Oilers on the perimeter, forcing them to try that diagonal pass. It's hard to do, and it was picked off in front and cleared.
Jari Kurri almost lost it in his own zone to Dale Hawerchuk as Thomas Steen comes out of the penalty box. 1-0 Edmonton leading on a power play goal by this man, Esa Tikkanen. He moves it ahead to Curry. He couldn't control it. Back comes Winnipeg. Hawerchuk, rink wide pass. Left there. Hawerchuk couldn't get a shot away. Donnelly tries to shoot it. Gets it again. Fires just wide. Evans back to the point. Donnelly with a shot. Knocked down in front. And the Oilers come back. Mark Lamb with Tikkanen. He's checked by Gord Donnelly. And Dale Hawerchuk has control for Winnipeg. Flipping it in for Doug Evans. Randy Gregg gets there first, moves it ahead to Jari Kurri. Lamb overskated it as Brent Ashton keeps it in with 9:53 left in the period.
Lamb and Curry are stuck on the ice. They're at the end of a long shift. Lamb should just dump it in and get off.
That's exactly what he does. Cronin moves it up to Brent Ashton. Rink-wide pass for McDermott. McDermott in across the line. Lets the shot go up high. Steve Smith knocked down by McDermott. Cronin pitches in at the point, and with some help from Ashton, they manage to keep it in the Edmonton zone. Steve Smith working against Paul Fenton, moves it ahead to Buchberger. He can't get out. Smith following up in the play, goes cross ice, but he doesn't get it out. McDermott keeps it in, firing the shot wide. Olofsson lets the shot go. That hit Buchberger, and he now comes out with Peter Klima. Tried to dump it through for Klima. It was broken up by Freddie Olofsson. Thomas Steen. Cross ice to Dave Ellett. Forced back by Peter Klima. 8:55 remaining in this opening period. This is Thomas Steen with Mark Kumpel going for the net. The shot was saved. The big rebound. Ellett shoots. Another save by Ranford. Winnipeg's best scoring opportunity, and Bill Ranford reacted. Bookberger's shot stopped at the side of the net for Dave Ellen. Great wide pass intercepted by Murphy. Fired just wide. And along the boards, Kumpel falls on top of the puck with 8:25 remaining. We'll have a face-off in the Winnipeg zone.
Thick green egg.
Leafs in trouble given the Leafs' need for a win. The Blues on a power play. Adam Oates set up Brett Hull in deep, and Hull of the quick release beat Jeff Reese at 9:49 for his second of the game, his fifth of the playoffs. Blues lead 4-2 now.
And the Oilers lead the Jets 1-0, 8:23 remaining in the opening period. As Tikkanen scoring with a two-man advantage. Craig Muni back to Curry. He lets it go. Saved by Beauregard. And then Beauregard regains his balance to poke it to the corner. Dale Howardchuk for the Jets dumps it down the ice. Going back after it is Kevin Lowe.
The Oilers set up that face-off well. It got back to Jari Kurri, and Stefan Beauregard made the good glove save. There was no Oilers around to pick up the rebound.
Lamb lost control of it. The Jets, however, can't get it out. Dale Howardchuk moves it to Mo Mantha. Up to Pazlowski. The tempo has picked up after a slow start. Centering pass for Ellett, too far. Kumpel keeps it in. The Jets, Dave McElwain tried to center it, wound up in the mesh behind the Edmonton goal with 7:31 left in the period.
Wow. Careful, those are priceless.
Excuse me. Change for the Pepsi machine?
Oh, sure.
And the home team is ahead at Northland Coliseum. Edmonton leading Winnipeg 1-0. Gord Donnelly moving in, letting the shot go, and Ranford got a piece of that when it came out the other side.
Hit the inside of his foot, went through his legs, and came out the other side.
Dory Bosman flipped it in, knocked down by the Oilers. Graves tied up in the neutral zone by Teppo Numminen. Boschman in there as well, along with Randy Gregg, and now Martin Jelena. And finally, the whistle goes for a center ice faceoff with 7:02 left in the period. You know, over the last 7 years, an Alberta-based team has played in the Stanley Cup final. In '83, the Oilers lost to the New York Islanders. They won in '84 and '85. In '86, the Flames lost to the Montreal Canadiens. The Oilers won in '87 and '88, and the Flames last year. And now here in the first round of the Spice Division semifinals, both teams are on the verge of elimination.
There has been lots of talk about the Battle of Alberta being fought in Manitoba and California.
And wouldn't that upset a lot of people who are involved in hockey pools? Peter Kleeman ahead to McTavish. To Bookberger. This line was put together for Game 4 in Winnipeg and played well. McDermott. Along the boards with Ashton. They try and get it out the other way. But Ruotsalainen keeps it in. Brad Berry, his first shift of the playoffs. He's out with Freddie Olofsson. Bookberger, bumped by Berry. The puck goes to the corner. McTavish can't do anything with it. Klima plays it around the board. Good forechecking by this line. Ruotsalainen racing in from the point, managing to keep it in and gain control. Back to Smith. There's the shot knocked down in front of the net. Ruotsalainen will keep it in. The Oilers pressuring the Jets with 6 minutes remaining in the period. Steve Smith, cross ice to Glenn Anderson. His shot high, up against the glass. Jets having problems escaping their own zone. Finally, it's brought out by Brad Berry.
Under that pressure, the Jets threw it right across in front, and Glenn Anderson almost had a good scoring chance.
Craig Simpson circling, trying to get away from Thomas Dean, then Pat Elnick bumps into Steve Smith. Puck loose along the boards. Doug Evans has lost his helmet, and the Oilers move it out to center ice, where it's picked up by Mo Mantha. A whistle on the play, and the penalty is coming up. 5:23 is the time remaining as Pat Elnick heads to the penalty box. Another power play.
Troy Murray skate and pass Greg Millen. Bellows gets credit, his fourth of the playoffs, 3-1 Chicago.
Pat Elnick takes a tripping penalty again on their most hated opposition player, Craig Simpson. Simpson goes for the puck. Elnick's got his stick in his feet. Simpson goes down. The Oilers have another power play.
In game one, the Oilers cashed in on 3 of 5 power play chances. Mark Tumpel, checked by Messier. He comes in against Dave Ellis. Messier cross ice to Charlie Huddy. Shot right on, the save by Beauregard. He had players on top of him. Simpson was there, so was Glenn Anderson, and that's Simpson's favorite spot. He parks directly in front of the goaltender. During the course of a game, he takes quite a beating. I think he wears some additional protection around his ribcage.
He does have a flak jacket type, a quarterback type jacket that he wears around his back. Here, but notice the Jets keep Simpson out of the direct line of sight. Beauregard sees that shot all the way, and there's Simpson and Anderson coming in after the fact, trying to get at that loose puck.
1:38 remaining in the penalty to Pat Elnick. 5 minutes remaining in the opening period. 1-0 the Oilers leading. They converted a 2-man advantage into an Esa Tikkanen goal. Kept in by Smith. To Ruotsalainen. Tried to go cross ice to Messier, broken up by Steen. The puck ricochets around the boards. Messier is over to the other side, then is checked by Doug Evans. And the Oilers move out to the neutral zone to regroup. Offside, Glenn Anderson preceded Mark Messier over the Winnipeg blue line. 1:15 left in the penalty.
Glenn Anderson was dancing in there with good speed, but Messier was stood up the blue line, had to make that extra move. And Glenn Anderson was in offside. Anderson was the player who collided with the Winnipeg goaltender Bob Essensa in Game 4. Essensa had to leave the game. Anderson played well in Game 3 and 4, but still has no points, and that's what the Edmonton Oilers won. A little more production from Glenn Anderson.
The Oilers are forced back in their own zone as Ruotsalainen leads the power play. To Messier. Messier lost control of it. However, the Jets can't get it out. Tikkanen back to the net for Messier. He's bumped by Donnelly. Got the puck in among their skates. It's kicked free to Tikkanen. Tikkanen attempted to center, blocked by Olofsson. Back to the point to Smith. Ruotsalainen to Smith. 35 seconds left in the penalty. Messier, in trying to slide it back to the point, had it intercepted by Fenton. He clears the zone.
The Jets are getting incredible production out of guys like Gord Donnelly and Sean Cronin. Both of them out there killing off this penalty and doing a good job.
Tavish and Mantha go to the corner. Then Elliott takes Smith in against the board. The puck is loose in Winnipeg territory. McElwain tries to clear, blocked by Curry. 8 seconds left in the penalty. One-timer by Tikkanen goes wide. Picked up by Elliott just as Thomas Steen comes out of the penalty box. He manages to stay onside. Dodges a check from Tikkanen. Temple's going for the net. McElwain's shot is deflected up over the glass and out of play. 3:14 remains in the period. The Oilers leading by 1.
Nobody knows more about foreign and domestic exhaust systems than Midas, which means you get expert service, the Midas monthly guarantee, and a great price. And you never need an appointment. Nobody tops the Top Guns. Nobody.
The choice is yours. Go to Midas this week for brake, exhaust, or suspension work worth $80 and clean up with a $30 black...
Two-man disadvantage. The Winnipeg Jets weren't as successful, but they did a fine job of penalty killing on that sentence against Thomas Steen. Brad Berry's shot from the blue line kicked out by Bill Ranford. Dumped all the way down the ice, and Stephan Newmanen is back after it. Kept in by Craig Muni. A backhand shot doesn't get through. Berry up along the boards to McElwain. He was looking for Stephan Newmanen, but Kevin Lowe got there first. He Francis plays it to an open wing. John Cronin is back for the Jets. Pass picked up by Howard-Chuck. He has Kozlowski with him. Tried to slide it across, and Kevin Lowe broke it up neatly.
No signs of his bad back on that play.
Olison broke it up. Kozlowski comes back with Howard-Chuck. He dumps it in. The Jets make a change. 2:18 remaining in the period. Dave Ellett takes it back in his own zone, being chased by Charlie Huddy. Over to Doug Evans. He lost his helmet. Rink-wide pass, too far for Elnick. Now Freddie Olison has it. He gets it to Evans. Evans drops it for Ellett. There's the shot. The big rebound as Ranford stood his ground. Adam Gray shoots it in. Back of the net goes Newman. The Oilers have been using all four lines in the opening period. Long shot by Huddy is deflected wide. Out front for Thomas Steen. He starts back for Winnipeg. Steen forced to apply the brakes as the Jets make a defensive change. Now Steen is upended on a good hip check by Randy Gregg, and there's going to be a penalty apparently. Donnelly in front. A shot bounces off the Edmonton defenseman, and the play is whistled down as it's contacted with a high stick.
Randy Gregg is going to get a penalty at the blue line. Denny Morrell felt he didn't get enough of the hip out, more of the foot, and Gregg is getting a tripping penalty. Here's the foot come across, and it hits Thomas Steen, and it's definitely a foot, not the hip. And tripping penalties called by Denny Morrell.
So the Winnipeg Jets will have a power play with 1:28 remaining in the period.
Watch Kevin Lowe moments ago dive in front on this 2-on-1. Just got his stick on it. A great play by Kevin Lowe.
Well, Kevin Lowe missed 2 games because of back spasms, but the veteran rear guard in this first period has certainly looked sharp.
And he's played with a abundance of enthusiasm, the coaches like to call it. Great intensity, all those cliches, but he has had that mean look on his face, and I think his teammates pick up on that, give it a little extra effort.
He said he had a most difficult time sitting at home watching games 3 and 4 on television from Winnipeg. McTavish forcing the Jets in their own zone. Ellett has to circle. McTavish and Messier are out there in a penalty-killing role for the Oilers. Moved ahead to Elnick. Rink-wide pass for Mantha. Back to Thomas Steen. Steen moving in. Backhander scores! What a beautiful play by Thomas Steen. He faked as though he was going back to the point, and then undressed Bill Ranford and the defenseman as he came in.
And the play is set up by Mo Mantha, who has been the Jets' most valuable player. Mantha takes a puck in the corner, and then a little back pass to Steen, and Mantha continues, takes Craig Muni behind the net, and that opens up some ice for Steen. He brings it out in front, slides it off the far post. Watch where this puck goes in the net. Perfect backhand shot off the post and in. No chance for Bill Ranford.
And that is Thomas Steen's first goal of the playoff, with Mantha and Elnick drawing assists at the 19-minute mark. So both teams have scored on the power play, and it's tied at 1 with 1 minute remaining here at the Northlands Coliseum. Thomas Steen is one of the most skilled puck handlers in the National Hockey League. One of the criticisms of Steen in the past is that he has passed when he should have been shooting. That time, he made no mistake.
Had the puck on his backhand, and you notice he didn't even attempt to try and pull it to the forehand for the shot. Just split it towards the net, and another case of not how hard, but where. Banked it off the post and past Bill Ranford.
That's a trait that's so common among many European players looking for that picture goal. Steve Smith has to wait for his teammates to get onside. Now Ruotsalainen will shoot it in right on Stefan Beauregard. To Paul McDermott, he takes a hit from Buchberger. And there's going to be a penalty coming up against Buchberger, a charging call. We said at the start of the telecast that Paul McDermott was a marked man, probably the most despised hockey player right now in northern Alberta because of the punishment he has dished out to the Oilers. And the Oilers have twice in this first period taken penalties in trying to get even.
Here's Buchberger coming into your screen. They call it charging. He had his hands and the stick up pretty high when he hit McDermott. And it's called a charging penalty. And the Jets go back on the power play. The good thing for the Edmonton Oilers is the faceoff is outside the blue line, and there's only 39 seconds left in the period, so they can break it up. The Jets will really have to hurry to get a chance on net.
Thomas Steen is out there with Dale Howardchuk and Pat Elnick. John Muckler, man on the spot behind the bench tonight. But he feels his team with some breaks can win. With a Stanley Cup update, here's Scott.
In Calgary, the Los Angeles Kings have lost veteran defenseman Larry Robinson, who's been playing his best hockey for the Kings in the playoffs. Robinson was hit by Brian McClellan. No penalty on the play. Robinson's been taken to the Kings locker room, and we'll keep you updated. Don?
Larry Robinson, who has played more Stanley Cup playoff games than any other player. Loose puck in the slot area. The Oilers move it ahead for McTavish. Racing after it. Mantha trying to cut him off, and he succeeds. 13 seconds left in the period. Allett, rink wide for Steen. He leaves it for Howardchuk. Will they get a shot away? Howardchuk to Mantha. There's the shot, the save, and the rebound is picked up and dumped down the ice just as the horn goes by Randy Gray. Well, a power play goal for each team in the opening period. The Edmonton Oilers cashing in on a two-man advantage. Tikkanen scoring at 8:08, and the Jets getting it back on a pretty play by Thomas Steen at the 19-minute mark. The shots on goal even at 11. And so the score at the end of the first period is Edmonton 1, Winnipeg 1.
Here at Northlands Coliseum, the Oilers and the Jets are tied at 1 after 20 minutes of play in Game 5 of this Smythe semifinal. This is a game the Edmonton Oilers must win if they're to stay alive in the playoffs, but in the last 7 previous meetings between these two teams, the team leading anywhere from early to midway through the game has lost. That is a trend the Oilers must reverse tonight if they're to keep their season alive. Let's go around the league now and update you on what's happening out of town. 3 other games in progress. The St. Louis Blues lead Toronto 4-2 after 2 periods of play, and so the Leaf season will come down to the final 20 minutes as they trail the series 3-1 and could be out tonight. Chicago leading Minnesota 3-1 after 2 periods of play. Ronex, Savard, and Gilbert for the Hawks. Brian Bellows with his 4th goal of the playoffs for Minnesota. Neither team is desperate here because the series is tied at 2. And to the south of us in Calgary, the Flames appear to be slowly recovering from the massacre they suffered in Los Angeles on Tuesday night when they lost 12-4. They have scored the first goal of this game and lead 1-0 now late in the second period. Our first intermission continues in a moment. Don Cherry is in the coach's corner as Molson Hockey Night in Canada returns in just a moment.
Coach's Corner is brought to you by Pepsi. It's got what it takes.
How about the Winnipeg Jets and the Los Angeles Kings?
Well, Winnipeg, they're nobody's weak sisters anymore. You know, you go in there before, have a little fun, grab 2 points. Buchberger, I think, ran Fenton. Is that the way it was? Cronin the Barbarian come over and straighten them out. Don't count out Edmonton yet, boy. It was an overtime game. It had to be a perfect shot to get them.
And Los Angeles?
Well, I can't figure that one out. I mean, when a team's going for the Stanley Cup, and they get 8 goals and 12 goals. It makes you wonder. But I hear now in the papers they're really after Crisp's head, and the players out there have to watch. They don't say it's Crisp's fault, and let it go. Well, we'd chalk up this year. I mean, it's so what? You get beat 12-2 or 12-4, what it was, same as 3-2. It's an incentive to get going.
Really is an incredible story, though. For the second year in as many, the Kings may dethrone the champion. In the last installment of the Coach's Corner, you said Roger was a goon coach and said you'd talk about it tonight. He said, what about all the children who go to his hockey school?
Well, they'll be good fighters. No, I want to talk about that later. I want to talk about Chris Nyland. He's the guy that I love, and he's got a broken arm. A lot of people don't know about it. He broke his arm, and I'll tell you what kind of a guy he is. He went out there and played 2 or 3 shifts with a broken arm, and then he sat there through the whole game, hoping, the trouble get out. They think, here comes Nyland. That's the kind of guy he is. He's snake bit in New York. He's got to get out of there. He's going to Boston. You heard it here. He'll be a Boston strong boy next year.
How about Harold Ballard? There must be a million stories that come to mind, Don. How about a couple?
Well, I'll tell you one is, I think a few years ago I went off a little tangent one time. I was mad at Russ Courtnall. And I said they should take him out behind the barn and kaboom. So, I guess you should...
You didn't mean it, obviously.
Well, anyhow, I said it. So I go in the room, and Don Wallace is there, and Don Wallace is dying. Don, what are you...
He's our executive producer.
Yeah, at the time, and he says, take the guy out behind the barn and kill him? I said, well, that's the way it goes, Don. He gets a call. Mr. Ballard would like to talk to Don Wallace immediately. So he can't get through, and I said, I'll go to Montreal, do Coach's Corner, don't worry about it, and all stuff like that. Then he gets through, and he says, hello, Don, this is Harold. Wendell Clark's grandmother's in the audience. Get a picture of him. I'll tell you about Harold Ballard. The one thing that I liked about him, he could dish it out, but he could take it, and he was my kind of guy.
What about the time you hung the Argo banner during the anthem? You remember that?
Yeah, I remember. We were down in Boston. We didn't know the hatred between Hamilton and Toronto at the time, and we saw the. Remember, he had the cats out there and everything, the tiger cats out there. So we thought, well, this will be a pretty good deal. We got a great big Argo banner and hung it across, and they had it in the paper. I got to admit, he wasn't too happy about that one.
Do you like the Leaf banners? He wasn't too happy about those.
Hey, listen, I think Harold was right on that one. How anybody could get dark blue pennants or flags, whatever you want to call them, and hang them against a dark background. You don't have to worry, Harold, because nobody sees them anyhow.
We've been listening to this now for close to 72 hours. There's no doubt about it. You were cut from the same cloth, and that's a compliment. Don Cherry in the Coach's Corner on Hockey Night in Canada on CBC.
Coach's Corner is brought to you by Pepsi. It's got what it takes.
And the Jets and Oilers are tied at 1, heading for the second period. Molson, Hockey Night in Canada on CBC. We'll be right back.
In Canada on CBC.
Welcome back to Northlands Coliseum, the second period of this Smythe Division semifinal. The score is tied at 1. 11 first-period penalties. One of them to Kelly Buchberger for charging will carry over into the second period with 1:21 remaining.
And the Edmonton Oilers have got to watch their undisciplined penalty. Kelly Buchberger took a charge at Paul McDermott from the other side of the ice. The Jets had just scored a power play goal, and you can't afford to take those kind of penalties when the score is tied.
Bill Ranford let in a late goal by Thomas Steen. Stefan Beauregard beaten by Esa Tikkanen. Both goals on the power play. And both goaltenders had the same number of shots in the opening period.
And a lot of that, you talked about the flow of the game and how the tempo of this game isn't as fast as the first 4 games. I think a lot of that has to do with the number of penalties called, and both teams were 2 men short for at least a minute. The Jets for a minute and 14, the Oilers for a minute, and it's hard to get anything going when you're playing shorthanded.
Native of Langenburg, Saskatchewan, Kelly Buchberger played his junior hockey in Moose Jaw in the penalty box. He missed the first game of the playoffs, but was dressed for game 2. So the Winnipeg Jets open the second period with a man advantage. Mo Mantha, who has 6 playoff points. He leads both teams in scoring. Gets it ahead to Dave Ellis. He'll fire it in. Charlie Huddy gets to the end boards first, and he gets it out of the zone. We've seen good penalty killing by both sides tonight, John.
Especially when they were 2 men down. The Jets did give up a goal, but they were able to kill the second penalty of that without giving up any good chances.
Jets a little careless in their own zone, trying to set up with this man advantage. They give it to Mo Mantha. Back to the point to Ellett. Into Elnuck. Elnuck in front. Thomas Steen just failed to deflect it. Steen checked in the corner by Randy Gregg. He can't clear against Mantha. Elnuck gets it at the side of the net. Out front for Steen, and a save by Ranford.
There's a big save by Bill Ranford. A good play by Elnick to set up Steen, and Ranford came right across with Steen and made the save.
Just 15 seconds remaining in the penalty, as the Jets will have to chase it down in their own zone. Edmonton making a change in that penalty-killing unit. Loose puck that Fenton can't get to, and the penalty is over. Buchberger out of the box as Messier comes in across the line. Messier waiting for someone to catch up. Back to the point to Kevin Lowe. Lowe fed it out front. Messier grabs it. Messier through traffic with a shot right on, and it's dumped down the ice with Beauregard making the save.
Kevin Lowe just came off the bench and couldn't get a good shot. Messier made the play thinking Lowe was fresh on his forehand, but Lowe was on his backhand and wasn't set for the pass and couldn't get a good chance.
Lowe almost lost his stick coming off the bench to get involved in that play.
With all the penalties being called tonight, you can see the Edmonton Oilers were shorthanded much more than the Winnipeg Jets. Edmonton involved in a few brawls, and I remember Denny Morrell did the one game where they set the record for most penalty minutes ever called, or most penalties ever called in an NHL game, and that helped Edmonton to the #1 position in time short.
And the game you're referring to took place late in the season in Los Angeles. Messier motions Ruotsalainen to get back into position for this face-off, but he doesn't get the draw back to him. And Hawerchuk brings it up. Fired into the corner, picked up in front by Kozlowski, scores! Greg Kozlowski taking it off the end boards and beating Bill Ranford as he won the race to the loose puck.
And you can see Reijo Ruotsalainen pick that puck out of the net and fire it against the boards. It was Ruotsalainen that let Kozlowski go and pick up that puck on the bounce. A good diagonal shoot in, and here it comes off the boards. Ruotsalainen lets Kozlowski go, and Kozlowski just slid it back against the flow, picked the corner. Here it comes off the boards, and watch Ruotsalainen. He's there, but he's not there. And Kozlowski just slides it into the corner.
The first of the playoffs for Greg Kozlowski with Dale Hawerchuk drawing the assist. Rather strange goal at 1:55. Not often you see a player pick up a dump in off the end boards that cleanly.
A good diagonal shoot in by Hawerchuk. He gets it far enough away from Bill Ranford that he can't play it. And Ruotsalainen fell asleep at the switch and let Kozlowski go in front of the net and slide it back. Here's another angle. Now watch the shoot in. It's too far away for Ranford to play. Kozlowski gets there first and makes a great shot.
Both teams making some line changes with that offside call, bringing the puck back into the center ice area. Gord Donnelly has been a very interesting story for Winnipeg in the playoffs. He did not move back to the blue line until the second last game of the season.
But Bob Murdoch was saying he knew that Donnelly had played over 100 games prone in the defense position. It might have been in the American League, but that's still playing defense. Played as junior at that defense position. Donnelly has been solid on the blue line for the Winnipeg Jets.
And obviously he has a lot of confidence in his play because he has used them in almost all situations. This is Joe Murphy working in against Ellett. Ellett got a piece of him, but illegally, according to Denny Morrell, because we've got a penalty coming up. With 17:30 left in the period, we'll be back after this message.
Dave Ellett takes a tripping penalty on Joe Murphy. Here's Murphy cutting across, and watch Ellett gets the foot out right there, the foot and the stick. Pulls the stick up, knocks Murphy down, and takes a penalty.
Dave Ellett watches as the Oilers send out the power play unit. Simpson, Messier, and Anderson, Smith and Ruotsalainen back on the blue line. 1 for 3 on the power play tonight. The goal coming with a two-man advantage. Ruotsalainen shot deflected wide. Simpson back to Smith. He just managed to keep it onside. Messier for Anderson. He was looking for Simpson, but the puck didn't get there. Smith keeps it in. Anderson goes to the net. Takes the pass. Tried to go cross ice for Simpson. It was blocked by Olofsson. Another pass across ice. A dangerous type of pass deflected out by Mark Kumpel. Lead pass for Messier that he couldn't pick up. He does manage to get it in the corner, back to the line, roots the liner over to Smith. The shot, save, the rebound, loose at the side of the net. Beauregard is down. He's lost his stick as well. Stefan Beauregard without a stick. Back to the line to Roots the liner. Cross ice to Smith. Everyone's saying shoot, shoot. Beauregard has not got a stick. Simpson trying to move out. The Jets can't clear the zone. Now it comes up along the boards, and Steen gets it out of there, enabling Beauregard to get his stick, but he was very casual in going after it, and the Oilers were unable to take advantage of that rather slow move. Curry cross ice for Messier. He couldn't one-time it on the conversion. And the puck goes around the boards and all the way down the ice with 23 seconds remaining in the penalty.
Craig Simpson made the right move on when Beauregard didn't have a stick. Tried to use the wraparound, but the Jet defense played it well, knocked Simpson down, and the Oilers never had a shot.
10 seconds left in the penalty. Here's Curry to Honey. A shot just wide. Paul Massa moves it ahead to Brent Ashton. He dumps it down the ice, and that will kill off the penalty to Dave Ellis. McElwain picks up that loose puck in the center ice area. To Howard Chuck. A shot. That deflects off a stick to the corner. McElwain tried to get it loose, but it's picked up by Charlie Huddy. Stopped at the line. Back comes Winnipeg. Howard Chuck took that pass, but it was a two-line call against the Jets with 15:04 left in the period. They have a 2-0 lead on the Los Angeles Kings with Joe Nieuwendyk scoring the second goal, and it's 4-2. St. Louis leading Toronto in the third. The Chicago Blackhawks ahead of Minnesota 3-1 in the third. And here it's 2-1 Winnipeg with 15:04 left in the second. Brad Berry, a native of Bashaw, Alberta, playing his first 1989-90 playoff game, called up from Moncton of the American Hockey League, along with a number of other players in the Jet system. As the Tikkanen after the loose puck, bumped by Brad Berry. It's loose behind the Winnipeg goal. Olofsson is checked by Buchberger. Gets it ahead to Kozlowski. He can't get out. Tikkanen moving out front. To Kevin Lowe, he couldn't get a shot away. It's hooked back to the point. Muni with a shot just wide. Good pressure by the Oilers. They came close to tying it at 2. Howard Chuck shoots it in for Kozlowski. He couldn't do anything with it. Howard Chuck gets it back. In front of the net, broken up by Lowe. Clearing attempt, stopped by Olofsson. Penalty coming up against the Edmonton Oilers, Kevin Lowe, as Dave McElwain was dumped in front of the net. So the Jets, with 14:09 left in the period, go to the power play.
Flames lead the Kings 3-0 in Calgary now. It wasn't on a power play, but the result of sustained pressure on it. Joe Nieuwendyk to Rick Natras on the point. His shot beat Kelly Hrudey. The defending Stanley Cup champions in control, and Joe Nieuwendyk has been in on all 3 goals.
See the look of concern on John Muckler's face. His team short-handed again. Kevin Lowe takes a tripping penalty at 5:51. The Oilers penalty killers are out there again.
Evans is out there, along with Steen and Elnick for Winnipeg. The Oilers managed to get it and dump it down the ice. Steen was trying to tie up McTavish and kick that puck back to Elliott on the point, as he did in Game 4 when Elliott scored the overtime winner on a power play. Thomas Steen looking for someone in front of the net. Evans finally went there, but Steen had to go into the corner to Elnick. He gives it to him again. Back to Steen. To Evans, to Steen. Over to Elliott. There's the shot. It's deflected by Tikkanen. They try and clear. Tikkanen was breaking down the ice. They attempted to hit him with that lead pass, and it was hit with a high stick at the blue line.
The faceoff will go all the way down into the Winnipeg Jets zone. Mo Mantha was fortunate to knock that puck down, seeking it in behind the defense, looking for the long bomb.
Mo Mantha has had an outstanding playoff series, as we have mentioned a couple of times. Some of the guys have been kidding him, calling him Tom Smythe. The most valuable player in the playoffs, of course, is the recipient of the Conn Smythe Trophy, and there's no question about his value to the Winnipeg Jets through the first 4 games.
And you talk to the management of both teams and said, had Mo played like this, he would have never been traded from either organization.
Or from any of the organizations he's belonged to. Winnipeg, Edmonton, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia.
He was talking about playing with some of the different stars, Mario Lemieux for Pittsburgh and Dale Hawerchuk, and the little different things you had to do as a defenseman when you played with those stars.
As he said, when you were clearing it out of your own zone in Pittsburgh, you could always count on Mario Lemieux somewhere out at the center line. So you banged it up high on the glass. Stefan Numanen. Coming out for Winnipeg to Olofsson. He dumps it in. This will be an icing call against the Jets. 1:06 remaining in the penalty to Kevin Lowe.
Frederick Olofsson, and he's talking to Teppo Numanen about that shoot-in. Another 2 strides, and he had the red line. Poor play on the part of Olofsson. I think maybe he thought that the linesman wouldn't call it. The home ice advantage is not here in Northlands Coliseum. That 2-foot rule, he was more than 2 feet away from the red line when he shot that one.
13-15, the time left in period 2. Winnipeg ahead by a score of 2-1. Jets have never won a playoff series from the Oilers in the National Hockey League. They won several from them in the World Hockey Association, including the last playoff series ever in the WHA. Puck loose in the corner. McDermott for Winnipeg is checked. The Oilers get it. Steve Smith will clear the zone again. So far, fine penalty killing by Edmonton with this man with Winnipeg holding the man advantage. McDermott checked by Huddy, taken in against the boards. Randy Gregg is checked by Fenton. Ashton trying to dig it out, gets it to Fenton, back to the point. Olofsson fakes the shot, tried to move in, lost control. Ashton has it. Back to the net. For McDermott, he's centered. Fenton's shot went wide. Fenton gets it again. Loose in the corner. McDermott back to the point. Olofsson over to Mantha. Back to Olofsson. A shot. Redirected in front. They score. Ashton grabs it and makes it a 3-1 game.
With just 4 seconds left in the power play, the Winnipeg Jets connect. And Paul Fenton created the traffic in front of Bill Ranford. Ranford never saw the original shot. The rebound goes out. Watch Fenton in front of the net. There's Fenton, tips the shot. Ranford makes the save and then can't get across on Brent Ashton. Ashton's right there to put it into the empty net. Here's the shot. Now watch Paul Fenton in front. Right in front of Bill Ranford. If he didn't tip it, he screened the goaltender. And there's Ashton all by himself.
So the Winnipeg Jets, with their second power play goal of the game, take a 3-1 lead. Same margin by which they lead this playoff series. 12:03, the time left in the second period. Ashton's third of the playoffs from Olofsson and Numanen. Craig Muni moves it ahead to Kevin Lowe on the wing for Messier. He's stopped. George Donnelly gets it over to Hawerchuk. He can't go anywhere with it. Messier for Anderson. He dodges a check from Hawerchuk. Messier picks it up. Simpson in front, and it bounced away from him. Simpson was all alone in front. It bounced away. Penalty coming up against Winnipeg. The puck on the mesh back of the Winnipeg net, resulting in a stoppage in play, and the power play coming up for the Edmonton Oilers with 11:24, the time left in period 2.
Straight off the ice midway through the third period. Alan Bester has taken his place, and shortly after this, the Blues' Curtis Joseph was run over in the crease. He's been replaced by Vincent Riondo. Don?
And we have a penalty against the Winnipeg Jets.
McElwain on Craig Simpson in front of the net.
Caught him with his foot. Simpson went down heavily, and the Oilers' power play has to come through. The Jets cashed in on their last power play, are 2 for 5. The Oilers 1 for 4, and they get another chance here.
Those two injuries to the goaltenders in St. Louis will only add fuel to the fire for those who want more protection for the goaltenders. And John Garrett, as a former goaltender, I think you can sympathize with the men in the net.
It's such a vulnerable position if the referees don't call the interference penalty when the guys go through the crease. They did for one training camp. It's the only time they enforce that rule. They're going to have to start doing it, or they'll have scenes like tonight where both goaltenders on both teams are carried off the ice.
Well, you said earlier, since they moved away from the 8-inch pipes and went to the magnets, there are very few players who are not shy about going to the net. In the past, there would only be a handful who would drive for the goal.
Well, the forwards have no fear whatsoever of injuring themselves. The goaltender has to concentrate on the puck. He's got his head down. And there he saw Jeff Reese out of position making the post check, and he's just run over.
1:25 remaining in the penalty to McElwain. Messier checked in the center ice area by Thomas Dean. The Oilers did a fine job of killing off a penalty in this period. Then they gave up a power play goal. Now the Jets are doing an excellent job of penalty killing. Here's Sean Cronin. Not the most gifted puck handler, and he lost control at the line, then goes to the bench in the change. Curry tried to play it back to the net, came loose. However, the Jets don't get it out. Tikkanen gives it to Curry. To Randy Gray. His shot through traffic, and it's gloved and held by Stefan Beauregard with 40 seconds left in the penalty.
There's a difference in the power play. You saw that shot from Randy Gregg right through. Stefan Beauregard had no trouble at all seeing that shot, was able to pick it off. No rebound. Now watch Randy Gregg let it go, and look at Mo Manthas got Mark Lamb out of the way. Beauregard sees the shot all the way and makes the easy save. Watch Mo Manthas take Mark Lamb out of the way. Gets a stick on the inside, pulls him back, and an easy save by Beauregard. There's Mo Manthas, besides being the offensive star back on the blue line for the Winnipeg Jets, killing penalties and doing a fine job at that.
He was laughing prior to the game and talking about all his various journeys in the National Hockey League and the teams he has played with, and on his shoes that he wears in the dressing room, he has the numbers that he wore with a variety of teams.
Running out of space.
That's those thongs don't have much space left on them.
Platform thongs.
Tikkanen shot deflects wide. Mantha can't get it out, but he stays with his man, Lamb. Forces a turnover that is banged down the ice by Dave Ellett with 22 seconds left in the penalty to Dave McElwain.
The Jets doing a very aggressive job killing the penalty. As soon as the Oilers make a pass and the Jets feel they've got any sort of chance, they charge the player with the puck.
Anderson, cross ice for Simpson. It was too deep. He couldn't get a shot away. Back to Tikkanen. Lamb tried to center it. Picked up by Anderson. Anderson's centering attempt hit Simpson, who had been knocked down in front. Lead pass for McElwain as he came out of the penalty box, but he couldn't control it. Gord Donnelly breaks it up and fires it back into the Edmonton zone. It ricochets off the boards. Anderson starts out with Simpson. He gives it to Simpson. Simpson moving into the slot to Lamb. Saved by Beauregard as Anderson is taken in against the net by Donnelly. Howardchuk comes back for Winnipeg. Over to Kumpel. Into the slot area to Olofsson. Olofsson tried to slide it across. Broken up. Donnelly had a shot goal from the point that was stopped. Muni having problems getting out against Howardchuk. Kevin Lowe will try. To Craig Simpson, who moves it ahead to McTavish. Rink wide for Buchberger, and it's broken up at the line by Gord Donnelly.
Donnelly's played a strong game there. He intercepted a pass the blue line, just dumped it by, and make sure you get it by the first man. Buchberger in the corner, check, centering attempt, and
Beauregard covers up in front of Craig McTavish with 8:18 remaining in period 2. The Oilers in Game 5 of this Smythe Division semifinal. The Oilers last year were ahead of the Los Angeles Kings 3-1, but lost 3 in a row. Combined with their 3 losses in the first 4 games this year, they have lost 6 of their last 7 playoff games. Melnick with Evans. Tried to slide it across to Newman, who was racing in. Couldn't get it through. Peter Klima to Bookberger. Back to Klima. Pat Elnick forces the Oilers back in their own zone. Evans gained control of the puck. Tried to go rink wide. Intercepted, and Klima comes back. Klima, good shot. High over top of the Winnipeg net.
Yeah, Stefan Beauregard beaten on that shot. Beauregard lost it. The puck went up and over the net.
Charlie Huddy moving up on the play as the puck is driven into the Edmonton zone, but just as quickly jumped out by the Jets. Ashton comes out with Fenton, with McDermott trailing to McDermott. Up high. I think that Ranford may have got a glove on it.
I think that grazed the goalpost in the crossfire. I think that was by Ranford.
Ashton back to the line. Ellis shot. Deflected wide. The Jets turn now to apply some more pressure. The Oilers had a chance earlier in this period, and that seems to be the format they're following tonight. First one team, and then the other applying pressure. 6:50 remaining in the second period. Back after it goes Dave Ellett. This is an icing call against Edmonton. The Winnipeg Jets leading the series by 2 games. Lead this game by 2 goals. The series tied at 2. And pending the outcome of tonight's game, we'll advise you later as to the Hockey Night in Canada telecast you'll be seeing on Saturday night. Newman shoots. Just fires wide. Craig Muni has his pass broken up in the center ice area by Kumpel. Muni rifles it around the boards. Craig Simpson can't control it.
The Winnipeg Jets are really controlling the neutral zone now. They're clogging it up, forcing the Oilers to try those long passes, and they always have a player in between.
Here's a chance as it comes back to the line to Muni racing in. He couldn't get a shot away. Muni with another shot. They score!
Here's the hit by Craig Simpson to start. Now watch Mark Kumpel stays down, and he's hurt. Kumpel just barely gets back into the play. And watch Craig Simpson in front of the net. He blocks the shot. Beauregard blocks the shot, and Simpson's right there. Before Beauregard, they can get to him. And Simpson's got position on the backhand and slides it under Beauregard.
Well, it all began with that hit on Mark Kumpel as Craig Simpson went flying into the Winnipeg forward.
I think Kumpel was hoping that Denny Morrell would blow the whistle because he was injured. He was late to get up and couldn't get back into the play, and the Oilers cashed in.
Curry. Cross ice to Ruotsalainen. A shot. Traffic in front of the net. They score!
Here's a shot at tipped right in front of Beauregard. Denny Morrell is right there as Tikkanen and Lamb jam the puck, and Tikkanen gets the goal. Here's a shot from Ruotsalainen, and it's tipped by Tikkanen, and then he stays right there to get his own rebound and shove it past Stefan Beauregard. A good play by Tikkanen not to go by the net. He tipped it and then stayed and got his own rebound.
They're crediting the goal to Mark Lamb. Those goals coming just 13 seconds apart, and this crowd is alive at Northland Coliseum. They say it's Lamb that tipped it in. Tikkanen and Ruotsalainen drawing the assist. The first goal, Simpson from Muni and Messier. Anderson's centering attempt. Bounces off his skate. Simpson was there looking for that puck. Passes behind Evans. He gets it ahead to Thomas Steen. Rink wide for Momenta. Long shot. Big rebound. And it's dumped down the ice. And this will be an icing call against the Oilers. 5:06 is the time left in the second period. Those two goals, 13 seconds apart, have put the Oilers back on even terms.
They're not giving up in St. Louis. They're within one now. The puck bounced out of the corner over Featherstone's stick to Mark Osborne, who set up Gary Lehman for his second of the game. It is 4-3 St. Louis with 4 minutes to go in regulation time. The Leafs have to win. Don?
And here at Northland Coliseum, the Oilers have to win. Well, I thought it was Tikkanen that jammed it in, but the official score has given it to Mark Lamb. That could be changed.
And you see the two of them, I'm sure that's what they're talking about.
Aston's shot is blocked. Buchberger moves out for Edmonton. Cronin trying to catch up with him. He does. The shot right on, and Beauregard gloves it and holds it.
John Cronin took his man. The Oilers still got the shot. Cronin caught up ice, and Cronin has played a very disciplined style game in the last 2 games. You think of him just as a physical presence, and he's out of control like a Ken Baumgartner with the Islanders, but Cronin has shown some great self-discipline in the last 2 games.
Well, his nickname is Cronin the Barbarian. And he and Gord Donnelly provide the physical side of the game that the Winnipeg Jets have been looking for.
Along with Paul McDermott, and McDermott up front, I think, is more important. That was one of the knocks against all the Winnipeg Jet teams over the last 5 years. Too small, and they called him the curse up front. But McDermott supplies a little muscle up on the forward line.
But even with McDermott, Donnelly, and Cronin, the Jets are one of the smaller teams in the NHL. 4:52 left in the period. Fenton against McTavish. Yuminen goes to the corner after for Brent Aston. Aston, long shot on Ranford. He's forced to cover up with Fenton driving for the goal against Kevin Lowe. The two of them go down in the corner. So the face-off will take place in the Edmonton zone. And I don't think at playoff time you can overemphasize the importance of winning face-offs.
You look at the overtime winner. That was a face-off Steve Bagnell in Game 4.
Well, obviously, Kevin Lowe is showing no ill effects from the back injury he sustained in Game 2. He had those muscle spasms that prevented him from playing Games 3 and 4.
And you've seen this a lot tonight. You notice how long John Buckler waited until he changed his line. He waited for Denny Morrell to put his hand up for the Jets to get their forward line out there, and then he made his change.
Mark Lamb preparing to take the face-off for Edmonton against Dave McElwain with 4:42 left in the second period, and the score tied at 3. The draw back to Olsen. His shot knocked down by Ranford. Ranford is knocked down, and somehow the puck lines up in the goaltender's equipment.
Reports of the face-off again. The Jets with a great scoring chance right from the draw. Here's the face-off. Now goes right back. Lamb has to take his man, but it's McElwain. Goes right over the goaltender, and look at the shot by Pavlovsky. And Ranford was very fortunate, had no idea where that puck was. Watch Ranford, he's down on his back and keeps the arm out. Look at this, gets the arm out and makes the save.
McElwain try and do the same thing. It comes back to Olsen. He tried to slide it into the corner. It was broken up by the Oilers and knocked down the ice by Tikkanen. Back after it goes George Donnelly against Lamb. Lamb takes him in against the board. Two of them push and shove behind the play as Howard-Chuck lets the shot go. Saved by Ranford. He pounces on the rebound as McElwain is knocked down by Craig Muni in front of the Edmonton net.
The Oiler defense really got messed up on the crisscross and let Howard-Chuck shoot that puck from about 20 feet out. And Ranford came up with another big save. That save on Kozlowski was one of those where you just blindly throw at an arm. Here, watch the Oiler defense. Look at how far back they are. McElwain and Howard-Chuck. And that's a good save by Ranford. That's not that tough a spot to score from. 30 feet out, right in the middle. Ranford made the good save.
Another face-off in the Edmonton zone to the right of Bill Ranford. This time Messier is out there to take the face-off. He'll go against Thomas Dean, it would appear. Back to Mo Mantha. He can't keep it in. Charlie Huddy to Messier. Messier's shot blocked by Mantha. Dean has it for Winnipeg. He sidesteps the check. Out comes Elliott. Long shot. High off the glass. Gregg races into the corner. He's checked. The puck is loose. Back to the line. Mantha with a shot. Saved by Ranford with Evans right in front of the net, and Evans was sent flying.
That was all set up with that long shoot-in by Elliott at the Winnipeg Arena. That would have gone out of play.
Evans leaves it for Elnick. Elnick looking around Randy Gregg. Dodges a hit from Huddy. Then is hammered by Gregg. Evans steps into Gregg. Puck loose in the corner, and Messier tries to move it out and succeeds.
Benny Morrell seems to put the whistle away here in the last 5 minutes.
Except for that one where it's a two-line pass.
The Winnipeg Jets are going to get called, I think, for too many men on the ice here. They were pointing at the bench, but I guess it's just an offside. Ron Finn, the player going off the ice, has not cleared the zone yet. The Jets were offside.
Benny Morrell, the referee tonight. 3:10 remaining in the second period. Ron Finn and Ron Asseltine are the linesmen. 3-3 to score. It was tied at 1 after one period. Then the Jets took a 3-1 lead in the second. But the Oilers came back with 2 quick goals, just 13 seconds apart. Jelena. Shot by Olsen. Graves takes the puck to the corner. And Kumpel bangs it out of the zone. Ruotsalainen for Smith. To Jelena. Jelena going to the backhand. Can't get the shot away. Joe Murphy in the corner. Tied up by McElwain. Graves comes in to help up. Graves takes the shot, gloved and held by Beauregard. 2:21 remains in the period with a Stanley Cup update. Here's Scott.
In St. Louis, the Blues have beaten the Leafs 4-3 to take their Norris Division semifinal 4-1. Gary Lehman's 2 goals were not enough for the Leafs tonight. The Leafs are the first team out of the playoffs. The Blues are on their way to the division final against either Chicago or Minnesota.
And that's in direct contrast, of course, to what happened during the regular season where Toronto dominated St. Louis.
Toronto won 7 of the 8 meetings, and a lot of people picked Toronto to win that series. I think that the St. Louis Blues showed the Brian Sutter character when it came down to playoff time. I think the acquisition of Harold Smith and Richie Sutter also helped great disciplined players, good playoff performers.
So they await the winner of the Chicago-Minnesota series for the division final. Klima. Back to the point. It's deflected down the ice by Paul McDermott.
Again, face-off in the offensive zone. That time the Winnipeg Jets lost it, and the Oilers had a chance.
2 minutes remaining in the period. Klima takes the hit from Fenton. McTavish carries on, fires it wide. Buchberger in the corner, centering it. McTavish spun around, can't get a shot away, but Klima did, and he fired it wide. The Oilers come in again, led by McTavish to Buchberger. Buchberger trying to get around Ashton. Buchberger up front for Klima. He can't get a shot away. Klima centers it for Buchberger. Buchberger goes back to the net, trying to wrap around, and Beauregard covers up. And then he's decked by Ashton. Beauregard knocked it into the net, but the whistle had already gone.
Beauregard had that puck underneath his pad. The whistle went, then he stood up before Buchberger just slid it into the net.
.125 the time remaining in the period. The Oilers coming close here in the second period.
Here's Buchberger. He slides it underneath Beauregard. It's under his pad. The whistle goes. And then he takes a little shot from Gord Donnelly. Now watch the skate there. Donnelly skate. Ooh. Gave Buchberger a little shot after the whistle. You hate to see that. No call for that. Any hockey game, that's where a player could get seriously hurt.
Fortunately, Buchberger is not hurt. At least not seriously as he goes to that Edmonton bench with 1:25 left in the period. It's McElwain against Tikkanen to face off to the left of Beauregard. Oilers bouncing back in the 3-1 deficit with 2 goals, 13 seconds apart to tie it in the second period. Randy Gregg moving in, firing it wide. Ellett having problems in the corner. Finally tries it loose. Howardchuk breaks out with Kozlowski. Howardchuk dumps it in. McElwain trying to pick it up off the board. He's checked. The Oilers can't go anywhere with it. Winnipeg can't move it in. Long shot by Mantha. Brantford is forced to make the save as we move into the final minute of the period.
And again, this period has settled down after all those goals scored in the middle of the period. It's settled down to that tight checking system we've seen in the first 4 games.
Play whistle down as the puck was contacted with a high stick with another Stanley Cup update. Here's Scott.
In Chicago, the Hawks are up by 4 in the third period. Steve Thomas found some open ice from the faceoff. John Casey out to cut down the angle, but Thomas drilled it past them. The Hawks are bidding for a 3-2 series lead and look like they'll get it.
46 seconds remaining in the second period. Jets and the Oilers tied at 3, and that is indicative of the way this series has been. Apart from that empty net goal in game number 1, it's been a 1-goal decision in each of the previous 4.
Shots on goal, 24-25. Jets leading, 25.
Evans almost stole it in the center ice area. Now Olsen trying to flip it in, puts it over the glass and out of play.
Frederick Olsen out there for the Winnipeg Jets. He and Dave Ellett have been a pair for most of the series. Now he's paired with Sean Cronin in this last minute of play. I'm sure that's a defensive move by Coach Bob Murdoch.
So when they talk about the moose in Edmonton, they're referring to that man, number 11, Mark Messier. The leading candidate for most valuable player honor. Anderson is checked. Ruotsalainen with a shot just wide as Anderson was in front, trying to deflect it. Messier has it again. For Steve Smith, too far for him. Thomas Dean checks him in the corner. And now the Jets dump it down the ice, and that will end the period. And so the score is tied at 3. And coming up next in our second intermission, a tribute to former Leaf owner Harold Ballard.
The
age of 86, he had been in failing health for some time. In his last few months, he was not the outrageous character who made headlines in dominating the scene for some 20 years at Maple Leaf Gardens. Tonight, we remember Harold Ballard.
He revered his parents, his mother, and his father, and his lovely wife Dorothy, who died 21 years ago. Since her death, he's generously supported a variety of charities, often without fanfare or publicity. That's just the way he wanted it.
I lost my mother and my father and my wife with cancer, so naturally I'm very partial towards those charities.
Can you picture this? Harold barging through the pearly gates yesterday, slapping St. Peter on the back, demanding to see his old partner Stafford, and of course, his best friend King Clancy, who left him lonely and all but broken-hearted in 1986. Clancy and Ballard, inseparable in life, now hopefully a heavenly duo. The void in his life was soon filled by a new companion, the notorious Yolanda.
God, don't batter this woman.
Now the courtroom games will soon begin, with the kids and the companion about to tangle for the millions of dollars at stake.
And there's one thing I'll never say, what are we going to do with poor old Dad? I'd just soon hit them a good kick in the ass and have them say something like that. They're well looked after. There's none of them eating out of garbage cans. They all have good education. And what they have left in the grab bag when I go, that's up to them. They'll fight like hell about it. There'll be lawsuits and war and everything else. I don't worry about it. And we've been talking about them, and I still have a multitude of friends that create a lot of enjoyment for me, and I have a lot of personal contact with them, and I suppose I will as long as I live.
Northlands Coliseum, an even exchange of goals in the second period. 2 each has this game tied at 3. The Jets jumped into a 3-1 lead on goals by Kozlowski, then Brent Ashton. Then the Oilers came back. A goal by Craig Simpson, followed by one by Mark Lamb, and the leader, Mark Messier, set up the first goal for the Oilers from behind the net. Craig Muni will let it go from the point after he gets the puck from Messier. Craig Simpson, watch him, number 18 in the crease. He's very much at home there. Will block the shot from Craig Muni, and Simpson put it in. This at 13:57. And only 13 seconds later, the Oilers had the Jets backing up. Ray Ruotsalainen will let go of the shot. Tikkanen and Lamb jamming the crease. Lamb, the hero of Game 2, when he scored the overtime winner, got credit for the tying goal in this game. And so it is, 3-3 after 40 minutes of play. And we're heading for the third period. We'll return with more in just a moment. Game 5 of the Blues-Leafs series is over, and so is the series with the Blues' 4-3 victory. Gary Lehman's 2 goals did not matter, with the Blues taking the series 4-1. And they now await either Chicago or Minnesota. Brett Hull scoring twice for the winners tonight. In Chicago, the Hawks started Greg Millen tonight, and for a change, he lasted the whole game. He gave up only 1, and in his support, the Hawks scored 5 on the North Stars, 5-1 the final, and Chicago leads the series 3-2, hoping to end it Saturday night in Minnesota. In Calgary, Flames have bounced back. They lost 12-4 on Tuesday, now leading 3-1 in the third period. Brian Benning took the shot from the line here. It went wide of Mike Vernon's net, bounced all the way out to Rob Blake at the top of the faceoff circle, and from there, Blake scored his first NHL goal. It came early on a Los Angeles power play, and it is 3-1 Flames over the Kings at the Saddledome. There are the other goal scorers in this game. Merzen, Nieuwendyk, and Mattress for the Flames. Nieuwendyk has been in on all 3 Calgary goals. Kings lead that series 3-1. The 1990 Stanley Cup playoff will continue in just a moment.
Montreal at Buffalo tomorrow night on Hockey Night in Canada. And then on Saturday night, we'll have to await the outcome of the series in the Campbell Conference to determine which game you will see. Hanging from the rafters of Northlands Coliseum, 17 banners representing the 4 Smythe Division, the 4 Campbell Conference, and the 4 Stanley Cup championships won by the Edmonton Oilers, as well as their 3 President's Trophies as the result of winning the overall league championship. John Muckler, in his first year as head coach of the Edmonton Oilers, felt that if the Edmonton Oilers got some breaks in this game, they would send the series back to Winnipeg for a 6th game on Saturday night. Bob Murdoch was hoping that his team could play the same style that got them into a 3-1 lead in this series. And except for that one brief breakdown, they have.
The Winnipeg Jets has played the same way in the first 4 games, and for 2 periods here, like you say, they had about a 2-minute letdown where the Oilers had some good pressure. They were able to put a couple past Stefan Beauregard. The one in particular is the one that they credited to Mark Lamb. Puck in under Beauregard. He had fallen backwards into the net. It was hard to see from up here. Denny Morrell was in position, called it a goal.
They have given it to Mark Lamb, although it appeared that Esa Tikkanen was the man who poked it under Stefan Beauregard. Well, this is the 4th game in the 5 meetings in the Smythe Division semifinal between these 2, that the game has gone into the 3rd with the score tied.
2 evenly matched teams. Could have gone either way. Could have ended in 4 for either team. Or either team could be ahead 3-1. That's how close it's been.
So we start the 3rd period. We have already had 2 overtime periods in this series. Kevin Lowe loses it at the line. Pat Elnick moving in, having trouble getting a shot away, and Radford, when he finally does make the shot, with a glove save. Kevin Lowe was harassing Elnick, and he did a fine job of getting away from him to let a shot go.
Craig Muni is getting a penalty. As Kevin Lowe was harassing Elnick, Craig Muni took his man to the net, in behind the net, and Muni is getting an interference penalty.
Jets have already scored 2 power play goals, so they get an early opportunity in the 3rd.
You see Muni, now he realizes Lowe is going to take Elnick, so Muni turns, and he takes his man, knocks him down, and you see that's Doug Evans losing his helmet again. How many times has Doug Evans lost his helmet tonight? He better get it a little tighter, better equipment. Here's Elnick, and what a save by Ranford. Elnick still gets the shot away, and Ranford in good position gets that left hand out and makes the save.
Howard Chuck moves up, along with Elnick, to flank Thomas Steen on this power play for Winnipeg. Momantha and Elliott are back on the point. Established their face-off against Steen. Puck goes to the corner. Kick loose to Dale Howard Chuck. Back to the line to Elliott. Cross ice to Mantha. He lets the shot go wide. Howard Chuck gains control. Over to Elliott. Back to Howard Chuck. Howard Chuck in for Thomas Steen. He was looking for Momantha, racing in from the point. Puck didn't get through. Steen around the boards for Howard Chuck. That's trying to set up. Back to Momantha. There's the shot. Save, and the rebound is picked up by Lamb. He can't get it up. Elliott manages to keep it in. To Howard Chuck. To Mantha. Mantha fanned on the shot. Lets another one go just wide. Elnick. Over to Elliott. Back to Elnick. Good puck movement by the Jets with his man advantage. There's the shot deflected wide by Bill Ranford.
The Oilers are going to have to put more immediate pressure on the outside man. They can't let the Jets just move it around and take the good shot.
Finally, Mark Lamb succeeds as he persisted along the boards to get it out of the zone. 56 seconds left in the man advantage. Here's Momantha trying to move through, and he's checked by Kevin Lowe.
Momantha with a good rush. He was through, but Lowe and Gregg tied him up enough, and Gregg was able to get the puck.
Brent Ashton lost control of it as the Tikkanen starts back. Tikkanen for Curry. He simply bangs it into the Winnipeg zone with 30 seconds remaining in the penalty to Craig Muni. Teppo Numminen dumps it in back with a goal. Ashton unable to center it as Lowe collides with McDermott. Olofsson back at the line. Cross ice to Numminen. Into McDermott, back to Numminen. Numminen over to Olofsson. Olofsson tried to slide it through. It was broken up by Tikkanen. And with just 3 seconds remaining in the penalty, the Oilers have killed this one off. Craig Muni back on the ice. The Jets gain control. Here's Numminen with a shot. That deflects wide. The rebound. Poke to the corner, and Curry comes out for Edmonton. 17:26 left in the period. Ahead to Messier. Messier lost control of it. Ashton lost his stick. Puck in the corner in the Winnipeg zone. McDermott goes to the corner with Messier and manages to fall on top of the puck, forcing a face-off with 17:13 left. Tonight's game is coming to you from Edmonton.
Is taking care of business at the Saddle Dome. Rick Natras with his second of the game to match his career playoff total. Natras went around Brian Benning and drove for the net. The goal on Kelly Rudy coming at 5:53 of the third period. 4-1 Calgary as the defending Stanley Cup champions look like a good bet to stave off elimination.
It definitely looks as though that series is going to a 6th game Saturday night in Los Angeles. Winnipeg and Edmonton deadlocked at 3 with 17:13 remaining in the third.
The Flames will be pleased with the defensive performance. 9 goals scored in that second period in that 12-4 embarrassment.
Wasn't it a few years back that the Edmonton Oilers hammered the Los Angeles Kings in the playoff game 13-3, and then the next night the Kings came back to win?
It's true. Both games were played here at Northland Coliseum.
Jets can't get out. Messier broke up the play at the line. Numminen around the board. Kept in at the point by Ruotsalainen. His shot right on. It's gloved and held by Beauregard with Anderson looking for a loose puck.
We don't know whether Mark Messier had equipment problems or a slight injury. It was late coming onto the bench at the start of the third period. He's out there now and doesn't look like he suffered any injury.
Messier has been checked closely by the Jets in this playoff series. Of the Winnipeg Hockey Club going in, and for the most part they've been successful.
They have been successful, and not only Messier but his whole line.
Simpson Cross ice pass. Messier couldn't get the shot away, but Simpson got it back and fired it up off the glass. Now the Jets flip it down the ice, and this will be an icing call against Winnipeg. 16:36 remains in a hockey game that is tied at 3. 1979, the Toronto Maple Leafs set the record for the 3 fastest goals in Stanley Cup playoff action. 3 goals in 23 seconds against the Atlanta Flames. And the Toronto Maple Leafs are on the sidelines. Tonight, we had 2 goals in 13 seconds here at Northlands Coliseum. The fastest 2 goals in Stanley Cup playoff action in 5 seconds. Red Wings scored them against the Chicago Blackhawks in 1965. Bonanza up in the wing for Thomas Dean. He tried to go rink wide to Doug Evans. Broken up by the Oilers. Messier with Anderson. Back to Messier. Scores!
The million-dollar man is Mark Messier, and he does come through here. Look at Dave Ellett. All or nothing. Took the dive, and here's the 2-on-1, and watch this shot by Messier. Beauregard plays him really well. There's about 2 inches to thread the needle. Look at Beauregard. Stays on his feet. Look at this. And right up in the top corner, high glove side. What a shot by Messier. And Glenn Anderson gets his first point of the playoffs. Look at where that puck hits right in the roof. No chance for Beauregard.
Messier's second of the playoffs from Anderson and Simpson. His first goal in the playoffs was a shorthanded goal in Game 1. So the Oilers regain the lead for the first time since early in the opening period. Rink-wide pass for Lamb, too far. Sean Cronin back of his own net. Kozlowski lost it. Howard Tuck gets it back. 15:30 remaining in the third period. Estetikinen to McTavish at the line. He's upended. Loose puck back to Tikkanen. Tikkanen shoots. Save as Beauregard made the stop. And Kevin Lowe put that loose puck just wide at the side of the net.
That would be a good test for Kevin Lowe's back. He was flattened by defenseman Sean Cronin.
McDermott lost it. Sean Cronin following the play. Moves it to the line and out. Now McDermott has it. He comes in with Fenton. He gives it to Fenton. Taking the shot, trying to go around Randy Gregg. A centering attempt. Knocked down. Donnelly with the shot. They score! They're waving it off. Paul McDermott was taken into the net and wound up on top of Bill Ranford. And Denny Morrell, the referee, is waving it off.
He waved it off immediately, but now is he going to call an interference penalty? He waved off the goal, and it'll be easy to see that McDermott was taken into Ranford, but then he just stayed on top of the goaltender. Here we can see it, a good play by Fenton. He fakes out Randy Gregg and goes wide. And Buchberger takes McDermott into Bill Ranford. Now watch, Buchberger leaves McDermott. Buchberger's trying to get away from McDermott, and McDermott stays right on top of the goaltender. There's Denny Morrell. And Buchberger's got his stick under McDermott, and McDermott has the goaltender pinned. You see, the Jets don't like the call, but Denny Morrell did not hesitate at all. He waves it off immediately.
The Jets protesting. Bob Murdoch at the bench, looking rather composed. He never shows much emotion during the course of the game.
It's amazing whether he's ahead by 2, down by 2, controversial call, or goes for or against him. That's about the most emotion I've seen. You saw him raise his eyebrows, shake his head.
Face-off comes out to the center ice area, 14:42. There's the time left in the third. Steve Smith comes out for Edmonton. away from Donnelly. Races after the puck, and is bumped by McDermott. Still on his feet, though. Throws it out front. Nobody in position. Peter Klima, who had moved back to the point to take over for Steve Smith, managed to keep it in. However, this time, Klima can't keep it in the Winnipeg zone.
Good play by Klima to cover up for his defenseman. Smith threw that puck in front. Klima was back at the blue line.
Kevin Lowe knocks down a rink-wide pass, fires it back into Winnipeg territory. This will be an icing call. 13:59 remains in the third with the Oilers in front by one.
Both spotted Gary Roberts breaking for the net, and Roberts' second goal of this playoff series gives Calgary a 5-1 lead midway through the third period. Joe Nieuwendyk has taken charge of the Flames attack. He has 4 points in this game.
Face off to the left, Bill Ranford. Laurie Boschman in the circle against Adam Graves. Puck goes to the corner, and out comes Kevin Lowe. Deflected by Stefan Beauregard. Loose in front of the net, and Martin Jelena has to go all the way back to center ice. He gets away from Howard Chuck. Still has it. In across the line. He's checked, and McElwain flips it down the ice. Howard Chuck racing after it. He's onside. There's the shot and the save by Ranford. And Howard Chuck is decked by Munich. Puck flipped out by the Oilers. Back after it is Ellis. His clearing attempt bounces off Graves, but it's offside as Murphy was in across the line.
Joe Murphy has added some speed to this Edmonton lineup, but he's going to have to finish. His line played well in Game 2 of this series when Murphy did score a goal.
John Muckler continuing to use 4 lines in Games 3 and 4 in Winnipeg. Late in the second period and throughout the third, he basically went with 3 lines. For much of the time, just 2.
They were behind. He shortened his bench down. He went with 4 defensemen and 3 lines. And he was criticized because the game went into double overtime. But if you're going to win it, you want to win it as soon as you possibly can.
John Cronin with a shot right on, but it's offside. 13:03 remaining in the third period.
John Cronin with a good rush, as you were saying, not noted for his puck handling ability there. He pulled the puck at the blue line and put 3 of his teammates offside before he let that shot go. Cronin, the puck handler right here, pulled it. You see it pull it. He was from his backhand to his forehand, and there's Evans and Elliott both offside.
Winnipeg defensemen do jump up into the play. Anderson jumps up into the play against Olsen. Simpson going for the net. Cronin falls in the corner. Jets move it out with Elman. Too far for Steen. Has managed to put on the break for Elnick. Elnick with Evans in front of the net. Elnick looking for Evans, and it was intercepted by Charlie Huddy.
Charlie Huddy, a perfect play. Elnick in the clear. Huddy stayed with his man and intercepted the pass.
12:27 left in the third. Teppo Numminen broke up the play in the center ice area. He gets the puck back. McDermott didn't see the pass. Smith picks it up. Smith gains the line, leaves it for Curry. Curry couldn't get a shot away. He's checked. Back at the line, kept in by Ruotsalainen. His shot right on and gloved and held by Stefan Beauregard. 12:01 is the time remaining in the third.
Here's a chance for the Edmonton Oilers. Now watch Paul McDermott on Yari Curry right there. A good solid hit, and then he holds on to Curry's stick. He's got Curry's stick pinned under him. He has a hold of it. No penalty called by referee Denny Morrell. Gary Curry's played pretty well in this playoff series against the Winnipeg Jets. One of the offensive performers. Craig Simpson has 3 points tonight. He's one of the star candidates where I picked him the stars.
But I don't think you've been assigned that particular task tonight, have you?
I don't know why. It's just because they pick the goaltenders every game. They never let me pick the stars.
Winnipeg Jets, Dale Howardchuck. Puts it in on an open wing. Loose to Lyman. Being watched by McElwain. To Steve Smith. Can't get it out. Manta lets the shot go. Blocked by Lamb, who dropped in front of it. Here's Curry racing after it against Ellett. His shot blocked by Ellett. Manta gets it behind the net. Back to Dave Ellett. Pazlowski. For McElwain to Howardchuk. Back to Pazlowski. Couldn't get a shot. Kevin Lowe. Long lead pass. He was looking for McTavish. Broken up by the Jets. Dale Howardchuk fired into the Edmonton zone. Ranford quickly moved it ahead. McTavish with 10:56 remaining in the period. Working against Olsen. McTavish back of the net for Bookberger. Bookberger taken in against the boards by Cronin. McTavish one-handing it out front, and it was poked to the corner by goaltender Beauregard. Lead pass for Elnick. He's spun around by Peter Klima. Evans is knocked down, and the centering attempt is picked up by Klima. Moved out to center ice. Olsen gets it to Steen. He kicks it into the Edmonton zone. The Oilers fire it right back up. Olsen brings it back. Olsen for Winnipeg. To Evans. He took a shot that went wide. Steen at the side of the net was tied up and couldn't get a stick up. Back comes Messier. Against Evans. Centering attempt. And the Edmonton player, Simpson, strides right into the net. He was trying to reach that centering pass and collided with Stefan Beauregard with 10:04 left in the period.
You know, the decision you make here...
Craig Simpson gets his points going to the net. Here he goes to the net. He's hauled down. And like Paul McDermott earlier, Simpson's in no hurry to get up. Look at Simpson. I'm a little interfering with the goaltender here. I'm not going to get up and out of the way. Tried to sneak the puck out with his hands. The referee, Danny Morrell, blew the whistle.
Puck loose at the side of the Winnipeg net. Anderson unable to center. Messier tries and hit the net. Anderson overskated it as he tried to move in front. Kunkel can't reach the lead pass. Randy Gregg in his own zone to Charlie Huddy. Play broken up in the neutral zone. Randy Gregg tries again. His pass intercepted. Back come the Jets. Aston with Kunkel going for the net. The shot is blocked by Charlie Huddy. Talk about players having an outstanding playoff series. Charlie Huddy has certainly had one for the Oilers.
At least tonight he's getting a spell off when Kevin Lowe and Craig Muniz are on the ice. In Game 4, he and Randy Gregg were out there, it seems, the entire third period and all the overtime.
9:07 is the time left in the period. Steve Smith circling in his own zone. Shoots it into Winnipeg territory. Back after it goes Pazlowski. He took a look, puts it around the boards, and it's knocked out by Mo Mantha. Flipped right back in by the Oilers. 8:44 left in the third. Mantha, stand on his scoring attempt. Here's Jelena firing it wide as Mantha got back, but he's going to draw a penalty. Mantha lost it in attempting to get it out of the zone, and Jelena picked it up, and Mantha drew a penalty and getting back to check it.
And Jelena was the victim of the Mo Mantha high stick. A good chance for Jelena. Mantha coughs up the puck, took his eye off it, and there's Jelena in behind the plate, stops on a dime, pulls it by, and Mantha interferes so that Jelena, there's a little splash, and there's the high stick after the shot. I would have called it slashing if you were going to call a penalty. He splashed Jelena so he couldn't get the shot away, and they called it high sticking after the fact.
Mantha yelling over to the bench. I believe he wants some tape for his stick, and linesman Ron Asseltine complies with his request. 8:30 is the time remaining in the third period, with the Oilers leading 4-3 and on the power play. And Edmonton has scored one goal. That was a two-man advantage in the first period. Rutzelainen. To Messier. He tried to go cross ice for Simpson, broken up, but the Oilers keep it in the zone. Smith sneaking in behind the play. The pass didn't get through. Anderson in front of the net. Messier had the puck bounced away from him. He gets it again in the corner. This time Simpson's in front of the net, and he was checked by Cronin. Smith lets the shot go. It's deflected high up into the crowd.
Glenn Anderson in front of the net. He's got his first point tonight. Sean Cronin tips that one up. And over the glass, so the faceoff stays inside, and it's Messier and Boschman. Here's the shot from Smith. Now watch Cronin, waist high, tips it up and over the glass. Look at Beauregard still looking for the puck. Cronin was fortunate that that puck went up and over the glass. Just waved at it. There's nothing that used to drive me crazier than having your defenseman not know for sure when they were tipping that puck.
It stayed with you. I couldn't resist that.
You see the expression on Beauregard's face. What is he doing? Beauregard had it lined up all the way, had the glove up, complete control, and then the defense was waving his stick at it.
1:21 is the time remaining in the penalty. Well, Doug Evans and Esther Tikkanen, maybe you're laughing at my joke, at the expense of John Garrett. Curry or Messier. Tikkanen in front of the net. Pass bounced away from him. He was looking for it as Messier slid it across. 54 seconds remaining in the penalty to momentum. Messier to the attack. Going around Ellis. He jams it and Beauregard manages to cover up. Strength of Mark Messier so evident there as he cut around Ellis and with one hand tried to jam it past Beauregard.
You can see there is Gord Donnelly trying to get at Esther Tikkanen. Tikkanen jammed at the puck, but he just didn't know where it was.
And I think both Donnelly and Tikkanen will be going off.
Brothers. Tikkanen and Donnelly both get roughing penalties at 12:47, and they're still yapping at each other in the penalty box. Messier had a good chance, but right around Dave Ellis.
Messier keeps it in. Ellis tried to flip it out, blocked by Curry. Rutzelainen goes cross ice to Smith. For Messier. To the point, Rutzelainen with a shot. It bounces off McElwain out to center ice. McElwain goes off, Aston comes on to kill off the penalty. Messier at the line, gets away from Ellis. Simpson bodied in the corner. The puck comes back to the point to Curry. Cross ice to Smith. Over to Curry. Rutzelainen tried to one time and then it went off the end of his stick. Simpson taken in against the board. Rutzelainen is bumped. The puck loose and Fred Olsen gains control. He dumps it down the ice as the penalty has expired.
The Oilers had a good chance. The only time that their planned play worked, the Rutzelainen fanned on the pass.
6:05 is the time remaining in the period. Time critical now for the Winnipeg Jets as they trail by a goal. McTavish gets it out of the zone to Klima. Klima back to Buchberger. Buchberger with a shot and a glove save by Stefan Beauregard.
A great save by Beauregard. Buchberger in the last couple of games has had some chances. In Game 4, he shot it right on Beauregard, that time high glove side.
And at this time, we say hello to the viewers who have been watching the action from the Saddle Dome in Calgary. 5:48, the time remaining in the third period. The Edmonton Oilers leading 4-3. The Oilers trailed 3-1 in the second. They got two quick goals, 13 seconds apart to tie it. And then in the third period, Mark Messier on a 2-on-1 scored what has been the only goal of this third period. Imminent pass. Looking for Thomas Dean. It was too far for him. McTavish trying to get out. Can't against Evans. Dean has it. To Evans, his shot from a sharp angle, and the save is made by Ranford. The Jets trying to keep him in the zone. They can't. Klima finally gets it out. Winnipeg has it again. Evans fakes the shot. Lets it go off the skate of Randy Gregg. And back comes Kelly Buchberger. Gets away from Cronin. Buchberger still has it in the corner against Olsen. Buchberger back to the line. Muni over to Kevin Lowe. Shot through traffic, gloved and held by Stefan Beauregard with 4:51 left in the third.
That shot by Doug Evans from the corner was the Winnipeg Jets' third shot of the period. The Oilers have dominated here in the period, and Stefan Beauregard has kept the score close. And you look at Pat Elenick injured on the bench. They missed Elenick in one of the other games here at the Northlands Coliseum, especially on their power play.
Mark Messier scored the go-ahead goal in this third period.
And it was a pretty one. Watch Dave Ellett. Takes a dive at Messier. Messier jumps out of the way. Anderson, a perfect pass to Messier, and look at this shot. Beauregard plays him really well, but there's not much you can do on a perfect shot.
They saw Pat Elnick on the Winnipeg bench favoring his left shoulder, it appeared. He talked about the injury he suffered in Game 2. He landed hard in the seat of his pants and suffered bruised buttocks as a result of a collision, but he did come back for Game 3.
And there's Pat Elenick. He's a big part of that Winnipeg Jet power play. They're 2 for 6 tonight. It has been effective.
4:51 the time remaining. 4-3 the Oilers lead. Cronin chases it down in the corner. He flips it to the line. It was blocked. Jets have to go back into their own zone to regroup. After Messier had scored to give the Oilers a 4-3 lead, the Winnipeg Jets had a goal disallowed by referee Denny Morrell. He ruled that Paul McDermott was in the crease. Grant Ashton took a swipe at that puck and almost knocked it past Bill Ranford. Now the lead pass for Grant Ashton, and he was offside at the Edmonton blue line.
This is a failure of communication between Kevin Lowe and Bill Ranford. Lowe thought that Ranford was going to come out and pick that puck up. And then Ashton beat Lowe to the puck and just shot it wide.
Well, let's take a look at the out-of-town scores and the results. St. Louis eliminating Toronto 4-3. The Chicago Blackhawks, one game away from disposing of the Minnesota North Stars after a 5-1 win. And the Calgary Flames, also 5-1 winners over the Los Angeles Kings, the defending Stanley Cup champions, rebounding from that 12-4 humiliation. Game 6 will take place in Los Angeles on Saturday night. Winnipeg Jets get it out of the zone, but the Edmonton Oilers regain control. Mark Lamb shoots it in. Mantha and Jelena race in against the board. Stefan Beauregard was there to play it. And Mantha is hurt. He was taken in heavily against the boards by Jelena. And Jelena, I think, is going to draw a penalty here with 3:50 remaining. Jelena took Mantha in against the board heavily and against Stefan Beauregard. And Mantha is hurt. Trainer Jim Ramsey is out tending to Mantha.
And you call it the exuberance of youth. Here, Jelena charged in with forechecking. He took Mantha heavily into the boards, but then he takes a foolish penalty. Can't even get close to a penalty. You're ahead by 1 goal. Less than 5 minutes left. We'll get to see it again. Here comes Jelena and Mantha. They take a piece of Stefan Beauregard. Now watch the stick. Mantha's got his up, Jelena has his up, and then Jelena waves it back again. Instead of just peeling off, he waves the stick back at Mantha. We'll have a better angle from this side. There's the two sticks. Mantha has a hold of Jelena's stick. Instead of just letting it go, Jelena waves it back. And Jelena takes a high sticking penalty.
And that occurred right in front of referee Denny Morrell.
John Muckler has to count on his penalty killers to come up large. Again, they killed off a two-man disadvantage in the first period very well. But then had a couple of power play goals scored against them later. And here they'll have to come up big again late in the game.
Mantha took that stick in the side of the head, but apparently, other than being dazed, he is all right. Kazlowski is out there with Helmut and Steen up front. Teppo Numminen back on the point on the power play. Rink wide pass for Dave Ellett. Ellett lost control of it, and Mantha dumps it, or Messier dumps it up.
Every now and then you wonder about his concentration level. He just seems to lose his focus on the game. And there, Mark Messier just lifted his stick and cleared it.
And the Oilers dump it down the ice. Teppo Numminen brings it back for Winnipeg. Deflected down into the Edmonton zone. It bounces over the glass and out of play as Kozlowski and Lowe battle for it.
Greg Kozlowski has a goal tonight on a perfect diagonal shoot-in by Dale Howardchuk. Put in by Bill Ranford. Kozlowski getting on the power play, and that's one of the things Bob Murdoch does, is he uses players that you normally wouldn't see out there on the power play. They get some opportunity, and so far they've been coming through in this series for the Jets.
1:16 remaining in the penalty to Jelena, and Murdoch makes the change. Ellett and Numminen remain on the point, but McDermott, Fenton, and Ashton are out there up front. Mark Lamb and McTavish, along with Muni and Lowe, killing it off for the Oilers. 3:06 remaining in the game. McTavish tied up Fenton from the faceoff, and Muni fired at the length of the ice.
The importance of the faceoff, we've seen it many times here tonight. That time McTavish right back, and an easy play from Muni to get it down.
McDermott was checked at the line by Mark Messier. The Jets get it again. Fenton lost it as he was checked by Messier, and McTavish fires it down the ice.
And Messier has been exceptionally strong here, killing this penalty for the Edmonton Oilers.
Rink wide pass intercepted by Curry, and the Jets have yet to register a shot with this man advantage on goaltender Bill Ranford. Numminen lost control of it. Fenton has it. For Olofsson. Olofsson shoots it in. Paul McDermott knocks down a clearing attempt, and he's checked, and the Oilers get it out of the zone again. Just 20 seconds remaining in the penalty.
And it's the Oilers' big guns who are doing this. Jari Curry, a good play to get it down. Messier earlier, and now Messier and McTavish are back out there killing off this penalty.
Olofsson shoots it in. Muni gets there first to Kevin Lowe. Lowe hammers it around the boards and out. And that will kill off the penalty. What superb penalty killing by the Edmonton Oilers in this third period.
And the special teams have to come out big and pick their time. And there, the Oilers, no bigger penalty kill this season is that one right there.
Thomas Steen tried to shovel it back to the point. Gord Donnelly kept it in, but now the Oilers break out. Messier with Simpson trailing on the play. Simpson's shot kicked to the corner by Beauregard. John Cronin has it. 1:27 left in the game. Rink wide for Elnick, but getting there first was Steve Smith. Ellett goes rink wide. Here's a chance for Mackler. Howardchuk going in. Saved by Bill Ranford on Dale Howardchuk with 1:10 left in the third period.
What a save by Bill Ranford. Talk about the big saves of Grand Jewel over the years. There's one for Bill Ranford.
This crowd is alive. Klima steals it. Can't get a shot away as it went off the end of his stick. 49 seconds left in the hockey game. What a glorious opportunity Dale Howardchuk had to tie it. Howardchuk has it bounced away from him. Muni will shoot it in.
The Jets with 38 seconds remaining, trying to get that puck down into the Edmonton zone and get a face-off, but the Oilers are preventing them from moving out of their own zone. Finally, it's brought out to center ice. Here comes Beauregard for the net. McElwain is checked. Has to go rink wide. Only 20 seconds left. Dave Ellett off the board. The puck deflected into Edmonton territory. Moved ahead. Klima goes after it. He can't get a shot away. Just 9 seconds left. The puck back in the Edmonton zone. And the Edmonton Oilers are going to send this to a 6th game. Fired into the empty net, but the horn had sounded. It will go into the books as a 4-3 Edmonton Oiler win.
And the Oilers should congratulate Bill Ranford. What a save on Dale Hawerchuk in the dying moments of this game. And another close game. Could have gone either way. Big save goaltender. That's what you need in the playoffs. We talked about it before the series began. And watch this. Steve Smith gets caught out of position, and in comes Hawerchuk. All by himself. All sorts of time. Goes to his forehead, and the kick saved by Bill Ranford.
So the Edmonton Oilers send it to a 6th game in Winnipeg on Saturday night. In just a moment, our 3-star selection.
Mazda. 3 stars. Tonight's first star from the Edmonton Oilers, number 18, Craig Simpson. Tonight's second star from the Edmonton Oilers, number 11, Mark Messier. And tonight's third star from the Edmonton Oilers, number 30, Bill Ranford.
And so the Edmonton Oilers stay alive with some performances from their big guns who are honored in the 3-star selections. Craig Simpson, the first star, with 3 points tonight on 1 goal and 2 assists. Mark Messier with his best game of the series. He scored the winning goal in the 3rd period. And Oiler goaltender Bill Ranford with a Herculean save on Dale Hawerchuk in the dying seconds of this game to preserve the Oilers' victory 4-3 over the Jets. Stay tuned for more on Molson Hockey Night in Canada on CBC. Welcome back to Northlands Coliseum, where the Oilers claim a 4-3 victory over the Jets to cut the Jets series lead to 3-2 and send it to Game 6 in Winnipeg on Saturday. The biggest save of the game by Bill Ranford, undoubtedly here in the dying seconds on Dale Hawerchuk. Bill Ranford is with us. What were your thoughts, sir?
Well, it was pretty scary. You know, once again, another bad bounce for us. Popped over the stick and skate, and Hawerchuk came in. I was just fortunate enough to make the save.
Was your heart in your throat?
Oh, definitely. You know, too many games have gone down to the dying seconds, and would have been tough to go into another overtime here.
Well, by your own admission, you sit here with your heart pounding against your chest pad at a rapid rate, but that's the kind of game it was for you guys.
Well, definitely. You know, we had to come up with a big game tonight, and you know, we really wanted to dominate, but they checked us so closely again tonight, and it could have gone either way once again, and we're just fortunate enough to win, and now the series heads back to Winnipeg, and we just got to, you know, keep plugging away.
And do you feel the pressure is now on the Winnipeg Jets because they have to win at home to avoid having to come back here where they'd be in Game 7 against you guys?
Well, I think so. You know, there's going to be the pressure that they haven't had on them all series. You know, it's all been on us. Now they're looking at a situation where they're going back in their building. They got to win because they don't want to come back into ours again.
Staving off elimination was the goal tonight, but you got a lot of things working in your game as well.
Well, you know, things are starting to come. You know, it was just a rough first game, and I was struggling down the stretch until the last 5 games. And it was just nice to get your game back together in the right time.
Nice to get the big guns going, too, Messier, Simpson, Anderson.
Yeah, they really went well tonight, and, you know, that's our leaders, and we need them to put the puck in the net.
All right, Bill Ranford, congratulations on your 3rd-star selection, and most of all on that big save on Dale Hawerchuk late in the game, which has sent this series to game number 6 in Winnipeg on Saturday night as the Oilers claim a 4-3 victory here at Northlands Coliseum tonight. Our Stanley Cup playoff coverage returns in just a moment. of Game 6 with an outstanding performance, in particular a big save on Dale Howard-Chuck as the Oilers win Game 5 of this series 4-3 and cut the Jets' series lead to 3-2. Around the league now, St. Louis Blues got 2 goals from Brett Hull, 4th and 5th of the playoffs to beat Toronto 4-3 and take that series 4-1. And now the Blues can rest waiting for either Chicago or Minnesota. Hawks have the lead in that semifinal after a 5-1 win in Chicago tonight. And in Calgary, the Flames recovered from that 8-goal shellacking they suffered in Los Angeles on Tuesday as they beat Los Angeles 5-1 to send this series back to Los Angeles for a game on Saturday night. And here at Northlands Coliseum, Edmonton over the Jets 4-3. Our next telecast in the Stanley Cup playoff tournament tomorrow night will be in Buffalo for Game 5 of the Sabres and Canadiens. We'll have Game 6 of this series between the Jets and Oilers Saturday night from Winnipeg. The first half of the doubleheader, as soon as it's over, we'll send you live to Los Angeles, where again, the defending Stanley Cup champions will be facing elimination in Game 6 of their series. Good night.
Molson Hockey Night in Canada on CBC was brought to you by Molson Canadian, what beer's all about. By Esso, makers of high-performance Esso Supreme Gasoline. And by Pepsi, it's got what it takes.
The head of TV sports for CBC is Alan Clark. The executive producer of Molson Hockey Night in Canada on CBC is Ron Harrison. This telecast produced by Jim Huff. Directed by Jim Marshall. Our isolation director was Bud Stanton. And our thanks to the rest of the people whose names you see. They help make this telecast possible. This has been a CBC Sports presentation in association with Polestar Communications.
Seniors go, and Arnold Palmer has 2 new but familiar faces with him on the senior tour.
He couldn't